Global maritime survival descends. The survival rules are now being announced. Survival officially commences upon completion of the announcement. A ship is private property. No outsider may board or steal from it without the owner's consent. Your vessel is your sole safe haven. Survivors must continuously upgrade their ships to stay alive. Random talent awakening for every survivor. 100,000 supply crates spawn in each survival zone. To claim more treasure chests, explore sea islands, and hunt aberrant creatures. The world is corrupted by an eerie contamination. Guard your sanity, SAN value. Do not listen to the whispers. Do not dwell on dark thoughts, or you will mutate into a twisted monster. The all-consuming gray fog chases relentlessly from behind. Do not stop moving. All maritime survival data has been digitized. Personal status panels can be viewed within a certain radius. The divine voice fades away. Shinsei regains consciousness slowly and scans his surroundings. He stands aboard a single-person sailboat, a shabby craft with nothing more than an open-air helm. The boat drifts upon an endless expanse of ocean, with a wall of gray fog stretching from sea to sky trailing far behind. A seagull flies past. The moment its wing brushes the fog, it vanishes without a sound. Maritime survival, the gray fog. Did I transmigrate to another world? Shinsei's gaze locks onto a floating crystal shard hovering before him, etched with eerie scarlet characters. Gray fog speed, 10 knots. Time until gray fog arrival, 9 minutes, 11 seconds. After staring at the crystal for several seconds, a status panel materializes before his eyes. Vessel core. Vessel type, single-person wind sailboat. Level, LV.1. Owner, Shinsei modifiable. Length, 5 meters. Note, small craft are measured by length. Medium and larger vessels are classified by displacement. Current speed, 2.5 knots. Note, this sailboat relies entirely on wind power. It will stall completely in calm or light breezes. Defense, 50. This boat might as well be made of paper, incapable of blocking attacks from even the weakest aberrant creatures. Durability, 100. Note, durability can be restored by consuming crafting materials. Equipped gear, none. Evaluation, a single-person sailboat at the mercy of the wind. If the breeze dies, you're as good as dead. A salty light gust sweeps over him, a chill creeping up Shinsei's spine to the crown of his head. He knows full well what still or faint winds mean for a wind-powered sailboat. He would drift motionless with the currents. A slow, drawn-out death. The gray fog pursues unceasingly, yet his tiny boat creeps forward at a snail's pace. There has to be another way. Right, my talent. Shinsei focuses on himself, and his personal status panel pops open. Personal profile. Name, Shinsei. Race, human. Remaining lifespan, 60 years. Status, healthy. SAN value, 100/100. Note, below 50 SAN, you hear maddening whispers and suffer physical discomfort. Below 30 SAN, contamination takes hold, spawning suicidal urges. Below 10 SAN, full mutation into a monster. Below 1 SAN, complete transformation into an unknown abomination. Stamina, 60/60. Note, stamina encapsulates strength, speed, physical defense, and more. Depleted stamina recovers via eating and rest. This is page 1. With a thought, he flips to the second page dedicated solely to talents. Talent, Tree of Devil Fruits unique rank. Skill 1, yields 1 random devil fruit per day. Anyone who consumes a fruit becomes cursed by the ocean, rendered weak to seawater. Non-living entities may consume a fruit, but only 1 total. Skill 2, upgrading your vessel unlocks perfect devil fruits, endlessly consumable, with no seawater weakness. 1 fruit daily, plus an upgraded perfect fruit. This is an infinite supply of devil fruits. Today marks the first day of survival. He wonders what fruit he will receive. Shinsei's heart surges with wild elation at the overpowered potential of his unique rank talent. Anyone familiar with One Piece knows how formidable devil fruits are. Never mind the broken Logia types alone, Paramecia and Zoan fruits are equally game-changing. A Paramecia fruit grants a unique superpower, effectively a second talent. Zoan fruits unlock animal transformation, drastically boosting physical stats, turning a scrawny weakling into a burly powerhouse far stronger than any steroid-fueled bodybuilder. Ding. System notification, Day 1 survival bonus. Common devil fruit, Zoan, duck fruit. Vessel LV.1 reward. Perfect devil fruit, Logia, wind fruit. Holy hell, a top-tier Logia fruit. Shinsei stares at the green fruit swirling with cyclone patterns in his right hand, a confident grin tugging at his lips. This is the wind fruit, granting unbridled command over storms and gales. It may not be the absolute strongest fruit in existence, but for his current life or death predicament, it is perfectly matched to his needs. The divine voice echoes once more. Zone announcement. Global chat channel unlocked for survivor communication and trades. A new tab appears on the vessel core panel. Zone ID, DZ1888. Online survivors, 1 million. Chat channel flood. What's the point of giving me a sailboat? If the wind drops, I just sit here waiting to die. I've got the same boat. I'm paddling with my bare hands to pick up speed. Wish I had a fuel-powered craft. Save your breath. Fuel boats aren't all they're cracked up to be. You need gasoline, and the only way to get it is diving for supply crates. Don't dive in the water. There are monsters down there. I jumped in to grab a crate, and one tore straight through my stomach. I'm not going to make it. My newlywed wife's name is XXX. Please look out for her for me. Don't worry, brother. I'll take care of your wife for you. System alert. Survivor Wu Dalong has perished. Zone population reduced by 1. He's dead. I thought this was just a prank reality show. How did he actually die? I'm still young. I don't want to die. Wu Dalong's death plunges the chat channel into instant silence. Several survivors with fragile mental resolve choose to take their own lives. System alert. Survivors Zhang Wei, Li Qian, and multiple others have perished. Nearly 1,000 survivors committed suicide in a single minute. Pathetic bunch, can't even handle a little stress. I awakened an A-rank talent, Storm Priest. Sacrifice lifespan to summon massive winds. No breeze. I'll manufacture my own gales. Shinsi watches the chat feed calmly. Sacrificing years of life for wind sounds impressive? Wait till they find out I wield storms without costing a single day of my lifespan. They'll lose their minds. Without hesitation, Shinsi devours the wind fruit in several bites. Acquired innate bloodline ability, Logia, wind fruit. His personal panel refreshes automatically, adding a new entry to his talent page. Bloodline ability, wind fruit. Tier, golden mythic. Tier classification, white common green fine blue superior purple rare orange epic red legendary golden mythic dark gold primordial prismatic creation. Fruit mastery, beginner. Mastery ranks, beginner, intermediate, advanced, awakened, and beyond. Skill 1, elemental transformation. Consume stamina to morph into wind, rendering all physical attacks harmless. Skill 2, wind manipulation. 0 stamina cost. Conjure and control violent tempests freely. Shinsi closes his eyes, focusing intently on the power surging from the wind fruit. Without warning, powerful gusts spiral across the calm sea, swirling reverently around his sailboat, as if bowing before a god. He snaps his eyes open, blazing with unshakable confidence. Clenching his fist, he activates wind manipulation. 10 knots, 20 knots, 40 knots, 50 knots. The tiny single-person sailboat schemes across the ocean surface, speeding forward at an impossible velocity. No more worrying about dead calm seas. No more paddling with bare hands. No fuel shortages to slow him down. Now fused with the power of wind, Shinsi blazes across the open ocean with wind manipulation fully active. The timer counting down to gray fog arrival skyrockets upward. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. In just half an hour, the fog's arrival window stretches to 2 full hours. The gray fog threat is temporarily neutralized. He now has ample time to rest once night falls. With the fog crisis under control, his next priority is collecting supply crates. 100,000 crates for 1 million survivors. Mathematically speaking, only 1 in 10 people will even find a crate. But this is reality, a cutthroat death match where survival hinges on claiming as many treasure chests as possible. Shinsi's gaze sharpens with resolve. He steers his vessel while scanning the water's surface for floating crates. A wooden supply crate bobs gently on the still waves. A sudden gust whips forward, bringing Shinsi and his sailboat alongside it. Wary of hidden aberrant creatures lurking near the crate, he keeps his distance. From 50 meters away, he shapes a vortex of wind to drag the crate toward his hull. The crate thuds against the boat's side. Shinsi hauls it aboard, then unleashes maximum 50-knot winds to flee the area immediately. The aberrant creature guarding the crate stands dumbfounded. Aren't humans supposed to swim out and grab crates themselves? You didn't even dive in. How did the crate float straight to your boat? Do you realize how ridiculous you made us look? The A-rank Storm Priest survivor is equally stunned. He watches Shinsi streak past, wrapped inside a whirlwind, utterly confused. This guy has a wind talent just like me. We're all running for our lives from the fog. Why are you zooming across the ocean like you're racing? That speed must cost you decades of lifespan every day. I'll follow him. It won't take long before he drains his life force and dies. Then all his supplies will be mine. Bracing himself, the storm priest sacrifices a full year of his lifespan to summon stronger winds and give chase. Yet the pitiful speed gained from trading his years cannot hope to catch up to Shinseai. Even if the priest somehow closed the gap, Shinseai would only have one line for him. Ever consider you're the only one wasting your own lifespan? Buoyed by his first successful crate haul, Shinseai abandons straight-line travel. Leveraging his unmatched speed, he cruises parallel to the gray fog's front, scavenging every crate he can spot. Open 20 supply crates. Loot acquired, lumber times 15. Universal, fuel times 4. Bottled spring water, 500 milliliters times 10. Baguette times 2. Iron ingot times 3. Single-person racing sailboats feature minimal, often non-existent storage space. After only 20 crates, his cabin is already crammed full. I need to gather far more supplies. I have to solve my storage shortage immediately. Shinseai opens the zone chat channel, planning to trade for storage containers or vessel upgrade blueprints. The chat feed is flooded with panic-stricken pleas. Online survivor numbers plummet by the minute. Nearly 20,000 have perished during his crate scavenging alone. Help! The gray fog is less than 10 meters behind me. Someone save me. I had to break off part of my keel to use as in, or to outrun the fog. My speed's up, but my hull durability is tanking. Anyone spare supplies? I've got family waiting for me back home. Supply crates are impossible to find. Lucky me, my talent is detection. I can skin 1 nautical mile of ocean for loot. Finding crates is child's play. Attached image, a middle-aged greasy man grinning smugly beside 4 stacked supply crates. Whoa, a big shot. Boss, you need a sidekick? My talent is growth. I can stretch any body part 10 centimeters longer. Father, I'm Lu Ruyan, your long-lost daughter. Add me as a friend and send your coordinates. Wait for me. Daughter, I'm coming for you. Hilarious, sprouting a random child out of nowhere with zero blood relation. This is maritime survival, a crucible testing raw fear and human nature. A playground for gods, a living hell for survivors. For crates, and everyone labels him a top-tier expert? Shinseai glances at the mountain of supplies piled at his feet, lost for words. Has he grown numb after looting 20 crates? Or is that detection talent survivor simply delusional? Shaking his head, he types a message into the zone chat. Wanted, storage equipment or ship upgrade schematics. Message privately to negotiate. Payment available in universal fuel. The entire channel falls silent for a beat. Moments later, thousands of unread private messages flood the chat interface nonstop. Shinseai ignores the blown-up public chat, continuing his crate hunt at a slower pace while sorting through private whispers. Most messages hold no trading value. People only message him to beg or manipulate him. Brother, it's your Rian sister. My coordinates are XX. XX, come find me. Attached image, a woman in revealing clothing posing seductively for the camera. Scam artist, you'll get what's coming to you for cheating people. After filtering through dozens of useless messages, he spots one promising private chat. Hello, sir. I can craft green-tier wooden storage chests, but you must provide all raw materials. I'd like to trade for 1 barrel of universal fuel. What do you say? A sly smirk crosses Shenxi's face as he replies. Why should I trust you to craft it if I supply all the materials? Also, 1 barrel of fuel is far too steep a price. The girl replies instantly. If 1 barrel is too much, half a barrel works. I can send you a photo of the wooden storage chest blueprint as proof. Attached, blueprint schematic blueprint. Wooden storage chest. Craft cost, lumber times 5, iron ingot times 1. Output, 1 wooden storage chest, 50 storage capacity. After hauling another crate aboard, Shinseai sends his counteroffer. I'll trade 1 barrel of fuel for this blueprint. 1 barrel is too low. At minimum 3 barrels. No, 2 barrels, and it's yours. Only 1 barrel. Pass if you refuse. Shinseai stares at the chat window, his expression utterly calm. On the other end of the line, orange-haired Jean bares her small sharp fangs, hissing at the screen like an annoyed cat. Cheater, cheapskate. But her fuel gauge hovers dangerously low. Without gasoline, her boat will stall and leave her to the gray fog. Shinseai is the only survivor offering fuel trades. She has no other choice. Deal. Trade request received. 1 wooden storage chest blueprint for 1 barrel universal fuel. Shinseai chuckles and instantly confirms the trade, handing over the fuel barrel. Consumed lumber times 5, iron ingot times 1. Crafted 1 wooden storage chest. With storage space unlocked, Shin-Sei resumes scavenging crates without restraint. He spends the entire day relentlessly collecting loot, amassing an enormous stockpile of resources. 5 full wooden storage chests fill his cabin by sunset. As dusk settles over the ocean, he slows his sailboat and sits at the bow, wondering what to cook for dinner. Abruptly, an unnatural gust of wind surges from behind him. He twists around to see a hunched elderly man aboard a single-person sailboat, staring at him with wild desperation. Before Shin-Sei can speak, the elder's eyes roll back, and he collapses motionless. System alert. Survivor with the Storm Priest talent has perished. Shin-Sei lifts an eyebrow and proceeds to dismantle the old man's abandoned boat without remorse. Dismantling complete. Loot acquired. Lumber times 15. Iron ingot times 5. The haul is modest, but free supplies are always welcome. After the brief interlude, Shin-Sei sets about preparing dinner. To save time, he decides to make a mixed canned stew. Like most young adults, his cooking skill is abysmal. He can only handle instant food, pre-packaged meals, and plain boiled noodles. The stew will cut down prep time. Scavenging over 200 crates today has exhausted him, and he needs rest early. I still can't believe how easy it's been to find supply crates. Shin-Sei leans back atop a storage chest, his cabin completely packed with containers. 5 chests grant him nearly 250 total storage capacity. Full supply inventory. Lumber times 100. Iron ingot times 20. Copper ingot times 10. Mechanical parts times 4. Universal fuel times 30. Portable gas stove times 1. Gas canisters times 5. Bottled spring water times 40. Assorted canned food times 20. Steamed yeast buns times 10. Lollipops times 5. On the first day of survival, this stockpile makes Shin-Sei an undisputed hoarder of resources. Other survivors spend their first day either rowing frantically to outrun the fog or gnawing dry baguettes washed down with cold seawater inside cramped cabins. He pulls out the portable stove and ignites the flame, opening a tin canned braised pork. He schemes excess grease, adds his remaining canned goods, and simmers the mixture on low heat. Melted fat releases a rich, savory aroma as chunks of pork bubble in the broth. He takes a bite. The fatty meat melts instantly on the tongue without greasiness, while lean cuts stay tender and juicy. His appetite ignites, and he shovels mouthfuls of stew rapidly. Tearing off a chunk of steamed bun, he soaks it thoroughly in broth. He's mixed in canned hairtail and preserved vegetables to the stew. The broth-soaked bun bursts with meat and seafood flavor as he chews. The warm, savory taste melts all exhaustion from his shoulders in an instant. After a satisfying feast, he reopens the zone chat and trades 1 bottle of spring water for a rapier for self-defense. Weapon, rapier. Tier, white, common. Special abilities, none. Evaluation, a thin rapier built solely for thrusting, more ornamental than combat effective. This marks the first day of global maritime survival. Most people keep their weapons to stay safe. No one's foolish enough to give up a blade just for a bottle of fresh water. It was plain to see that the only reason the other party traded this rapier to Shin-Sei was that they'd gotten a far better weapon. Still, Shin-Sei was fairly satisfied. His greatest trump card lay in his devil fruit powers. It was 9:30 at night. In another 2.5 hours, he would obtain a brand new devil fruit. Shin-Sei had a premonition that this fruit would grant him tremendous support. The gray fog would arrive in 8 hours. Clutching the rapier to his chest, Shin-Sei drifted off into a light sleep. Deep into the night, a shrill warning jolted him awake. Warning: the sailboat is under assault by unknown creatures. Durability reduced to 94. Repairs required immediately. Shin-Sei shot upright. A creaking, groaning racket echoed from the port rear of the hull. Drawing his rapier, he crept closer to investigate. On the shadowed sea surface, over 20 grotesque monsters gnawed relentlessly at the sailboat. They bore skull-like heads, blood-red fish bodies, and protruding jagged fangs. Every bite tore huge splinters from the wooden hull. Skull piranha. Tier 1 group, Tier 1. Single specimen weaker than Tier 1 standard. Race, eerie abnormal creature. Skill, bloodthirsty maul. Continuously tear and gnaw at targets until they perish. Weakness, unknown. Only half of the skull piranha's stat panel was visible to Shin-Sei. The rest remained locked away from his sight. Damn it. Piranhas live in freshwater. How are they out here in the open ocean? Cold fury flashed in Shin-Sei's eyes, and he lunged forward to stab the skull piranhas with his rapier. His strikes proved ineffective at best. He barely managed to kill one, only for its corpse to be devoured instantly by its swarm mates. This drove the school into an even bloodier frenzy. Shin resolved to activate the sailboat's engine and outrun these nuisances at full speed. Just then, a crisp chime echoed through the air. Ding. Current time, 0:01. Acquired common devil fruit, zoan type, swordfish fruit. There was a glitch within the rules of devil fruits. It was not that devil fruit users feared seawater, but that the ocean rejected any soul that had consumed a devil fruit. In other words, beings without souls bore no fear of the sea. This was exactly what happened when an inanimate object consumed a devil fruit. Weapons possessed no souls, so they were unaffected by seawater after ingesting a fruit. Shinsei intended to test whether this loophole applied to this world. He pulled out 2 devil fruits, a duck fruit, and the swordfish fruit. He tossed the duck fruit aside in disdain. Come on, what kind of offensive power could a tiny yellow duck with a rapier-thin beak possibly wield? Without the slightest hesitation, Shinsei pressed the swordfish fruit against his rapier. Feed zoan type, swordfish fruit to weapon rapier? Yes, Shinsei murmured quietly. The swordfish fruit melted and was fully absorbed by the rapier. In the next instant, the blade seemed to come alive, twisting its hilt free. Rapier swordfish fruit absorbed. Grade, green, excellent. Skill, chain lunge. The blade morphs into swordfish form, unleashing continuous piercing strikes on targets automatically. When submerged, it transforms fully into a swordfish, able to build momentum by swimming to unleash amplified burst damage. Special damage bonus. Damage doubled against small, swarming creatures. Evaluation, an aberration. You defied all logic. You forged the harshest overlord for Tier 1 swarming eerie creatures. Hell yeah! Shinsei exclaimed in excitement. While it could not deliver one-shot obliteration, it was more than enough to wipe out these skull piranhas. Likely because it had absorbed a power forged from Shinsei's own talent. The rapier could sense his thoughts. If Shinsei wished these monsters dead, it would strike without hesitation. The 2-meter-long swordfish darted back and forth beneath the waves, building momentum. Its metallic, cold bill stabbed the skull piranhas with pinpoint, lethal precision. The charged version of Chain Lunge activated. In a split second, all 20-plus skull piranhas lay slain beneath the blade. The swordfish leaped from the water, reverting to its rapier form and settling gently back into Shinsei's grasp. Slayed Tier 1 Unit Skull Piranha. Obtained Upgrade Scroll ×1. Upgrade Scroll Special Item. Function. Consume 30 timber, 10 iron ingots to upgrade Tier 1 sailboat to Tier 2. Sufficient materials detected. Proceed with upgrade? Upgrade, Shinsei muttered. Realization dawning in his heart. He thought no wonder no one in the regional chat had mentioned how to upgrade vessels. A flash of white light washed over the boat, and the interior space expanded instantly. Upgrade successful. Vessel type, family sailboat. Tier, LV.2. Owner, Shinsei editable. Length, 10 meters. Speed, 10 knots base. Defense, 100 withstands attacks from Tier 1 creatures. Durability, 100 note. Durability can be restored by consuming materials. Equipped gear, none. Evaluation, a standard family sailboat. With this, you may dare to explore the mysterious open ocean. That was not all. The melodic system chime rang out once more. Vessel upgraded to LV.2. Acquired perfect devil fruit. Logia type. Rumble fruit. The rumble fruit. This was theoretically the strongest Logia devil fruit in existence. It boasted speed comparable to the glint fruit, and destructive power rivaling the mag fruit. It would not be an overstatement to call it a god-tier fruit. As for its weakness, rubber's insulation was nothing more than a plot contrivance. No such misfortune would befall Shinsei. He would never limit himself. Shinsei surveyed his newly upgraded sailboat. Compared to this family sailboat, his old single-person craft was little more than a flimsy dinghy. It featured a fully enclosed cabin, so he no longer needed to sleep exposed. The cabin measured 6 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, with a 2-meter ceiling. Inside stood a double bed, a kitchen, a washroom, and even a gramophone. Talk about a massive upgrade. Shinsei sighed in wonder, picked up the rumble fruit, and bit into it whole. Consumption successful. Exclusive ability, rumble fruit. Grade, gold mythic. His body felt ignited, electric currents surging wildly through his veins. Shinsei could feel its terrifying destructive power. Stepping onto the deck, Shinsei pointed a finger toward the sky. A thunderclap split the clouds, striking the corpses of the skull piranhas and reducing them to charred cinders. Stamina 2. Current stamina, 58 of 60. Shinsei nodded in satisfaction and retreated to the cabin to rest. The next morning, Shinsei rose at dawn. When he stepped onto the deck, he found the boat anchored off an island shrouded in crimson mist. Upon closer inspection, he could faintly make out a medieval European-style small town, swallowed by roiling black storm clouds. The vessel core floated before Shinsi's eyes, lines of text flickering across its surface. Random quest, Nightvale Island Gala. Quest briefing. Nightvale Island is perpetually veiled in storm clouds. Lately, townsfolk have been vanishing mysteriously every night. Quest objective. Uncover the truth behind the townsfolk's disappearances. Avert the annihilation of Nightvale Town. Quest rewards. Enhancement scroll ×2. Tattered exclusive vessel blueprint ×1. Accept quest? Note: this random quest vanishes permanently if declined. Accept, Shinsi said calmly. Fortune favors the bold. Only cowards starve. With the rumble fruit, he held 30 instant kill charges against Tier 1 eerie creatures. If push came to shove, he still had his rapier and elemental transformation. If even he fell to this quest, no other survivor alive could complete it. The crimson mist swallowed Shinsi and his sailboat whole. The vessel core shrank down, merging into his right wrist and leaving a crystal rune. Shinsi blinked, and suddenly he stood in the central square of Nightvale Town. A wild gala was underway. Villagers circled a bonfire, singing and dancing. Tables groaned beneath mountains of fine wine and lavish food. A blonde beauty laced her fingers through Shinsi's and pulled him beside the fire, preparing to teach him the town's unique dance up close. Shinsi pulled free, staring at her in surprise. I believe we only just met this moment, lovely lady. Aren't you being a touch too forward? The woman curled her lip in disdain. You're an outsider brought here by the crimson mist, aren't you? Since you've arrived, you might as well indulge in everything this place offers. I guarantee you'll never want to leave. How many men could resist a beautiful, poised woman at a wild carnival? Shinsi broke into a bright grin, wrapped an arm tight around her waist, and joined the revelry. No one noticed the faint flicker of electricity that raced across Shinsi's skin, clearing his mind instantly. Thanks to the float fruit, Shinsi possessed an extraordinary sensitivity to faint breezes around him. A putrid stench of rotting flesh lingered in the wind. The tables stood unnaturally tall, draped in dark tablecloths. They danced for a while before slipping away amid the crowd's cheers and catcalls. The woman led Shinsi back to her home. The second they stepped into the bedroom, she lost all restraint and lunged for him. Let's not waste a single moment, shall we? 15 minutes later, Shinsi opened the bedroom door and stepped outside, sweat glistening on his forehead, clear signs of strenuous exertion. Shinsi exhaled a heavy breath. Phew, thank God I'm the sharper one here. I nearly walked straight into that monster's trap. Slayed Tier 1.5 Ghoul Hybrid. Obtain Blood Essence ×1. Blood Essence. Grade: Green, excellent. Function: rapidly restores stamina upon consumption. Mass intake carries a chance to raise maximum stamina permanently. Shinsi swallowed the Blood Essence, returning to the gala as if nothing happened. Blood Essence consumed. Stamina regenerating, +1 stamina every 5 seconds. Inside the bedroom lay a creature as tall as a human, dog-headed and human-bodied, its entire frame blackened and charred. This was the blonde woman, a ghoul hybrid disguised in human flesh. Her motives for luring Shinsi were twofold. First, reproduction. Ghoul hybrids were incomplete aberrations, requiring union with uncorrupted humans to bear offspring. Second, to kill and devour him. She failed utterly. Her physical assaults were nullified by Shinsi's elemental transformation, and he countered with a single thunderbolt, frying her to a crisp. Shinsi repeated the same tactic for the rest of the night, slaying 13 more ghoul hybrids. Consumed blood essence ×10. Maximum stamina permanently increased by 1. Stamina regeneration ongoing. A warm tingle spread across his entire body as Shinsi felt his physical flesh evolving. The bonfire dwindled, marking the gala's end. Shinsi left with another woman. Several male townsfolk finally lost their patience, blocking his path. They'd seen humans with robust vitality before, but never anyone with such extraordinary stamina as Shinsi. The tallest man at the front stepped forward to bar his way, speaking with irritation. Hey buddy, you've got insane stamina. Want to come hang with the guys for some men's fun? Shinsi caught the same putrid stench wafting off him. This man was also a ghoul hybrid. Veins bulged on his forehead as he drew his rapier and stabbed the man. His stamina was full, and he was done pretending alongside these monsters. His rapier morphed into a charging swordfish, unleashing a flurry of piercing strikes at the man. Caught completely off guard, the man did not even have time to transform into his hybrid form before he died beneath Shinsi's blade. Seeing Shin Si drop his pretense, the remaining townsfolk abandoned their disguises. One by one, they shed their human skins to reveal their true forms. Dog-headed, pale-skinned, hideously grotesque ghoul hybrids. Not a single person at this gala was human. Roughly 40 ghoul hybrids remained. Shin Si showed zero mercy to these revolting abominations, unleashing 10 consecutive thunderbolts to instantly slay over a dozen of them. Blood essences dropped by slaying ghoul hybrids quickly replenished his stamina. Since elemental transformation rendered all physical attacks useless against him, Shin Si felt no fear. He only needed to monitor his stamina to avoid dropping too low. A small, agile ghoul hybrid struck at Shin Si from a blind, sharp angle. Its attack did nothing. It stared in utter disbelief as its clawed paw passed straight through Shin Si's back. Skill Elemental Transformation activated. Stamina 3. Physical damage fully negated. Shin Si seized the sneak attacker in one hand, and searing currents reduced it to charcoal. Slayed 20 ghoul hybrids. Consumed blood essence times 20. Maximum stamina permanently increased by 2. Stamina regenerating continuously. In mere minutes, Shin Si had cut down half the swarm. The eerie creatures felt a primal terror well up within them, paralyzed with fear of him. The tide of battle reversed entirely. What had once been a mob of monsters surrounding a lone human became Shin Si. Wreathed in crackling lightning, he hunted ghoul hybrids down one by one. Chaos reigned across the square. It grew impossible to tell who was hunter and who was prey. When the final ghoul hybrid, clad in a priest's robes, collapsed dead, the vessel core floated back before Shin Si once again. Quest completed. Rating SSS tier. Quest rewards. Enhancement scroll times 2. Tattered exclusive vessel blueprint times 1. Shin Si dropped heavily to the ground, gasping for air. The once joyous gala square was now a battlefield carpeted with corpses. The true face of the earth lay exposed beneath the bloodshed. Human bones mixed into the mud everywhere. Overall, this random quest excursion had passed without catastrophic harm. Yet Shin Si remained dissatisfied. I let my guard down. My strength is still far too weak. I cannot strike recklessly until I hold overwhelming power. He chugged a full bottle of water to hammer the lesson in. Still, the rewards were more than generous. Enhancement Scroll Special Item. Function: boost proficiency of bloodline abilities and class skills. Shortens ability cast time and moderately amplifies power after enhancement. Note: enhancing bloodline abilities carries a chance to unlock new skills. 2 eligible abilities detected. Select target for enhancement. His float fruit sat at basic proficiency and served him well enough for now. Shin Si used both enhancement scrolls entirely on the rumble fruit. Consumed enhancement scroll times 2. Rumble fruit proficiency plus 2. Unlocked new skill, Thunder Spear. Shin Si savored the raging lightning power surging inside his body, thoroughly pleased. He also possessed the Tattered Exclusive Vessel Blueprint. Tattered Exclusive Vessel Blueprint. Status: incomplete, unusable. Description: 1/3 of a unique vessel blueprint. The remaining 2 fragments must be collected. Function: consumed during vessel upgrades to forge a custom exclusive ship. Exclusive vessels boast far superior base stats to ordinary craft. Linked coordinates: superior base stats plus exclusive unique abilities? There was no question. The sailboat raced straight toward the nearest marked coordinate at 50 knots. He arrived at a desolate, treeless islet, bare of all vegetation. Half buried in the sand sat a single treasure chest. Shin Si leaped from the boat, gliding over a 3 to 4 meter stretch of open water to land steadily on the sandy shore. His maximum stamina had risen by 3 points. His physique now matched a top athlete's, muscles tight and powerful, every step carrying weight and momentum. He had consumed 30 of his 50 blood essences during combat, leaving the rest in reserve. As he neared the treasure chest, a giant crab nearly half the height of a human blocked his path. It bore a bright crimson carapace, pincers strong enough to snap an adult human's leg. Instead of compound eyes, its eye sockets held 2 human heads capable of rotating a full 360 degrees. One head tilted skyward, the other hung downward, both stretched into eerie grins. You have spotted Tier 2 Eerie Creature 2-Headed Sand Crab. Sanity 2. A Tier 2 monster? Perfect chance to test my new skill. Shin Si clenched an empty fist, summoning a lightning spear. He hurled it with full force, and the thunder spear buried itself dead center into both of the crab's human heads. The 2 grotesque heads vanished in a blast of blackened ash. Stamina consumed, 4. Blinded and enraged, the headless 2-headed sand crab waved its massive pincers, rampaging wildly across the sand. Two successive thunderbolts boxed it in, followed by a second thunder spear piercing its mouth parts. One clean kill. Slayed Tier 2 eerie creature, two-headed sand crab. Obtained Judge revolver ×1, universal pistol ammo ×20. A silver revolver etched with ornate engravings materialized in Shin Si's grasp. Weapon, Judge. Grade, blue fine. Passive skill, divine judgment. One chance to land an instant kill shot. Evaluation. Care for a game of Russian roulette? Let's see if I drop you in one bullet. Shin Si holstered the Judge at his waist and headed for the final marked coordinate. Yet something felt oddly familiar about this coordinate, as if he'd seen it somewhere before. He consumed one blood essence to refill his stamina and soon reached the last island. In the distance, he spotted a small islet with a broken wreck of a boat and a woman waving him over. It was none other than Lu Ruyan, the girl who ran around the regional chat begging every male survivor to adopt her as their daughter. On the very first day of descent, she'd latched onto a middle-aged, unrefined man with a detection talent, alongside a skinny survivor gifted with invisibility. The three had tricked other survivors in the chat channel into killing each other to steal their loot. Shin Si recognized her instantly, but she did not recognize him. Leaping onto the island, Shin Si feigned casual curiosity as he scanned the surroundings. Lu Ruyan hurried to his side. "Dear brother, my boat's wrecked. Could you take me in?" She simpered, sliding a hand up her thigh in a deliberate tease. Unfortunately for her, Shin Si was utterly immune to allure, naturally resistant to succubus charm. Shin Si shot back sharply. "Is there nothing on this island besides your broken boat?" "Absolutely nothing else. Nothing at all. It's just me and a reliable, handsome man like you here." She reached out to grab Shin Si's hand, but he roughly pulled away, icy eyes locking onto hers. Moments earlier, he'd activated his wind power to stir a soft breeze across the island. The wind hit an unseen obstruction directly behind the broken boat, a spot where nothing should have stood. Lu Ruyan was lying. Other people hid on this island, concealed from sight. "You're certain no one else is here?" I'm sure." Her voice wavered, guilt playing across her face. His 3-point stamina boost had forged a lean, formidable frame, and he'd slain over 50 eerie creatures back in Night Vale Town. Anyone who'd spilled enough blood exuded an unshakable, murderous aura, one ordinary humans could not endure. Shin Si let out a cold snort, raised the judicator, and casually fired a shot toward the obstructed area behind the wrecked boat. Bang! A shrill scream like a slaughtered pig rang out. The scrawny man dropped his repeating crossbow, clutching his arm and trembling nonstop. Likely due to his injury, his stealth effect faded, revealing 2 men and a fuel boat. Seeing their cover blown, the greasy man completely ignored the scrawny man's fate and scrambled madly for the fuel boat. Bang! Another gunshot echoed. The greasy man collapsed unwillingly, hands clamped over his heart, and fell silent forever. Bang, bang, bang. 2 shots to the torso, 1 to the head. Even the gods would shake their heads. The 2 men were well and truly dead. Shin Si turned to look at Lu Ruyan. Lu Ruyan had completely broken down. She lay flat on her back on the sand, scuttling backward on all fours, shaking like a sieve. I know I was wrong." Shin Si slowly walked over to her and spoke in a calm tone. "You don't know you're wrong. You just know you're about to die." Bang! Shin Si shot Lu Ruyan square in the lower abdomen, then stood and headed for the fuel boat. This venomous woman had victimized countless survivors. Let her taste death for herself. Shin Si came to a halt before the fuel boat. Unclaimed vessel detected. Dismantle? Yes. Materials obtained. Lumber ×10, iron ingots ×20, instant noodles ×10, honey ×1 500g jar, canned food ×12. Shin Si frowned slightly. That couldn't be right. These two had been killing and looting here for ages. They should have hoarded far more supplies. The fuel boat vanished, leaving a treasure chest and an orange-haired girl bound hand and foot on the sand. The chest naturally held the final blueprint fragment. As for the girl, Shin Si had never seen her before. The girl was Jean, the one who traded him the storage crate blueprint. Regional chat hid survivors' personal information by default. So even though Jean still vividly remembered the person who'd swindled her green blueprint for a single barrel of universal fuel, neither recognized the other face to face now. Jean wore a blue and white short-sleeved tee. Young as she was, she possessed formidable strength. Tight denim jeans clung to her hips, outlining a perfect figure. She squinted, staring fearfully at her surroundings. Ignoring her, Shin Si walked straight over, picked up the treasure chest, and prepared to leave. "Hey handsome, my boat's totaled. Could you take me in for a while?" Shinsi glanced at Njin. She blinked hard, forcing a weak smile through her exhaustion. I won't be a free burden. I can cook, clean, and I can also. Meeting Shinsi's unflinching, emotionless gaze, she lost the courage to keep talking, her voice shrinking smaller and smaller. Cooking and cleaning aren't rare skills. I have no use for a pretty ornament, Shinsi said coldly. Supplies were scarce out on the open ocean. To survive long-term, one had to practice strict conservation and cut all unnecessary waste. Shinsi would never let his base instincts cloud his judgment like those weak-willed men. If someone wanted passage aboard his ship, they had to offer irreplaceable value. Otherwise, forget it. My talent is blessed koi. Max luck stat. Every supply crate I open yields a stable 50 resource bonus. After spilling her biggest secret, Njin drooped her head, like a kitten deprived of its favorite toy. A solid talent. Show me. Shinsi's heart skipped a beat upon hearing her ability. Nothing was more overpowered than luck. This was textbook protagonist power straight out of a novel. He happened to have a treasure chest on hand. It was the perfect chance to test her skill. He untied Njin's restraints, set the chest before her, and gestured for her to open it. Go ahead, show me what you've got. Njin spotted the two corpses strewn across the sand. Then the judicator holstered at Shinsi's waist. Her heart hammered against her ribs. That barrel looked massive. Getting shot by it must hurt terribly. Treasure chest opened. Blueprint fragment ×1. Maritime log ×1. All blueprint fragments collected. Synthesize? Yes. Obtained exclusive vessel blueprint ×1. Exclusive vessel blueprint special item function. Consume double materials to construct an exclusive ship. Required materials. Upgrade scroll ×4. Lumber ×120. Iron ingots ×40. Copper ingots ×20. Mechanical parts ×20. Aberrant creature flesh ×30 effect. Doubles all base vessel stats. Unlocks exclusive special features. This deal was an unbeatable win. What mattered most for survival on the boundless sea? A ship far stronger than every other survivor's vessel. Time waited for no one. Shinsi resolved to work overtime that day to gather every material and build his new ship. He picked up the maritime log. Its bark cover was dark and wrinkled. Staring at it too long brought a wave of physical discomfort. Maritime log chronicles a captain's lifetime of seafaring adventures. Inspect for full details. Shinsi skimmed through its pages. The first half recounted a king obsessed with immortality who dabbled in forbidden primordial knowledge, only to watch his entire kingdom swallowed by crimson mist and vanish overnight. The second half detailed the weaknesses and habits of common aberrant creatures. He even spotted a bizarre recipe crafted from monster flesh, titled Starry Sky Platter. This book was another priceless treasure. Closing the log, he strode steadily toward his sailboat. Get aboard, don't waste time. Survivor Shinsi invites Njin on board. Accept? Note, boarding will disable partial core vessel functions. On the verge of despair a moment prior, Njin heard a sound like divine melody, the sound of hope, of a chance to live. Accept. Once on board, Njin wandered the deck, gazing around in undisguised curiosity. She could instantly tell this ship was extraordinary. It was more than twice the size of her old fuel boat. Empty tin cans littered the deck, half-empty mineral water bottles rolling back and forth with the waves. Most absurd of all was a full 20-bottle pack of Nongfu Spring left out in plain sight, free for anyone to drink. Wait, when did fresh water become this worthless? Ever since the maritime survival game began, Njin had only drunk half a bottle total. That tiny sip had cost her a blue-tier blueprint. Shinsi tossed her a bottle of Nongfu Spring and a canned luncheon meat. Eat quickly. You've got plenty of work ahead of you today. Huh. Mid-bite into the savory luncheon meat, Njin tilted her head in confusion, a kitten-like look of bewilderment crossing her face. Watching her cute reaction, Shinsi felt an urge to ruffle her hair. How could this girl be so adorable, just like an orange tabby cat? He ached to pet her. Shinsi steered the sailboat out in a random direction and departed. Shortly after the boat left, the barely living Lu Ruyan dragged herself upright. Before she could move an inch, a pink worm as thick as a human waist silently dragged her beneath the sand. The sand rippled, faint screams and skin-crawling, crunching, chewing noises seeping up from below. Cut back to Shinsi and Njin. Shinsi hadn't lied. Njin would be swamped with labor. In just a short span, she'd fished 5 supply crates out of the ocean single-handedly, diving to retrieve chests, opening them, sorting all resources into storage crates. Shinsi only piloted the boat to locate loot, and Njin handled everything else. The workload eased only after she unlocked the grappling hook blueprint. Equipment, Grappling hook tier. White. Common function. Launch the hook to haul floating supply crates aboard. By noon, boosted by Jin's blessed koi talent, 3 wooden storage crates on deck were stuffed full. Piles of unsorted supplies lay scattered across the planks. Jin finally understood why Shinseai could afford such waste. With this absurd rate of resource collection, trivial goods meant nothing to him. The air grew hot under the harsh ocean sunlight. Shinseai stripped off his shirt, bare-chested, revealing wheat-toned skin and a solid, muscular physique, undeniably a lady killer's build. Yet Jin had no interest in admiring him right now. She was simply exhausted beyond words. I'm a lucky koi fish, not a full-time laborer. She hissed silently at Shinseai's back, balling her tiny pink fists and throwing invisible punches at him. Shinseai suddenly turned around, and Jin froze stiff, quickly replacing her glare with a bright smile and a friendly wave. Hey, your muscles look amazing. Shinseai said nothing in reply and headed below deck to attend to something. And Jin leaned against the low wooden railing, staring blankly up at the sky, utterly drained of all will to live. Shinseai handed her a can filled with his signature mixed stew, plus 2 steamed buns. Mineral water's over there, help yourself. And Jin's eyes blew wide, fixated entirely on the meat inside the can. By afternoon, Jin kept working tirelessly without complaint. Their dynamic mirrored a cat and its caretaker. The caretaker provided safety and abundant food. In return, the cat offered companionship and amusement. If Jin wanted to stay on Shinseai's ship, she needed to prove her worth every single day. Shinseai checked his resource collection progress. Lumber, 200 120ths, iron ingots, 50 40ths, copper ingots, 14 20ths, mechanical parts, 10 20ths, aberrant creature flesh, 5 30ths, upgrade scrolls, 1/4. Most base materials were nearly gathered. Shinseai stopped prioritizing treasure chest hunts and shifted his focus to hunting aberrant monsters. Slain Tier 1 aberrant, skeletal piranha. Copper ingots ×2 obtained. Slain Tier 1 aberrant, faceless sea serpent. Mechanical parts ×1 obtained. Slain Tier 2 aberrant, 1000-arm killer worm. Handgun ammo ×120 obtained. Shinseai noticed a pattern. Materials dropped by slain monsters were far higher quality than those found in supply crates. Bang! Saint Judgment triggered. Tier 2 aberrant eliminated. Obtained latest Valentino made outfit set. Are you kidding me? We're stranded at sea fighting for survival. What am I supposed to do with a maid outfit? Shinseai tossed the set aside carelessly and resumed hunting monsters. Over the entire afternoon, he killed more than 50 aberrant creatures, 40 Tier 1, 10 Tier 2. Most fell to shots from the Judicator or strikes from his rapier. Only the toughest foes were instantly incinerated by his lightning spear. Shinseai intentionally practiced his marksmanship and combat skills, reserving the devastating Rumble Rumble Devil Fruit as his ace in the hole. In short, he wanted to catch enemies off guard, hiding his deadliest power until the critical moment. As the last aberrant creature collapsed, Shinseai finally gathered every material needed to build his exclusive ship. The tight tension in his shoulders melted away, and he yawned widely. I finally got everything. All that fighting wore me out. Shinseai might be sleepy, but someone else would toss and turn all night. And Jin tallied the day's collected supplies in a notebook. Line after line of scribbled carbon ink only amplified her surreal disbelief. Beyond the construction materials for the exclusive ship, they also had universal fuel ×150, fresh water ×40 liters, assorted canned goods ×200, flour ×360 kilogram sacks, rice ×4 10 kilogram sacks, plus 150 units of miscellaneous daily living supplies. And Jin half wondered if Shinseai was here for a tropical vacation, not maritime survival. That was minor compared to his ridiculous combat power. Everyone else scraped by with cold weapons, yet he carried a handgun. If bullets didn't finish a foe off, he unleashed lightning spears to finish the job. He looks intimidating, but he's so reassuring. Ugh, why is my heart racing like this? All construction materials collected. Build exclusive vessel? Yes. A flash of light erupted, unveiling a 40-meter, 2-masted sailboat. Its hull was pitch black, etched with ferocious twisted runes, and a 2-horned demon statue adorned the bow. Vessel type, exclusive vessel, unique name. Demon's wake level, LV.3 owner, Shinseai transferable crew, and Jin length, 40 meters displacement, 200 tons speed, 50 knots base minimum defense, 1000 immune to all Tier 2 creature attacks durability, 100 equipped armaments, none. Special trait, Devour Evolve. Crafted from unknown composite material, all ship sections and components can consume any matter to endlessly evolve. Evaluation: a legendary seafaring vessel. Its very presence strikes terror into every enemy's heart. Devour all things, evolve infinitely. A brutally straightforward description, and exactly what Shinseai needed. Ever since the survival game began, he'd harbored a lingering worry. As his devil fruit powers grew stronger, his ship became his biggest vulnerability. He refused to wake up one morning to find his vessel reduced to floating wreckage while he slept soundly through the night. His exclusive ship solved every concern. The double base stats were impressive, but its infinite devour evolution was its greatest draw. With this trait, he could designate specific ship sections to absorb devil fruits, eliminating the one fruit limit for the hull. Vessel upgrade detected. Perfect variant devil fruit obtained. Zoan, human fruit, human form. Shinseai stared at the mushroom-shaped devil fruit in his hands, mouth twitching. Come on, seriously? This fruit was infamous, though not for any impressive power, only endless mockery. Jokes on whoever eats this fake devil fruit. Zero abilities, no transformations, nothing at all. Shinseai pressed his lips together, stashing the human fruit alongside the duck fruit in the back of the storage hold to gather dust. At 40 meters long, Demon's Wake was far from a small craft, spanning over 2 full basketball courts, spacious enough for a morning jog across its deck. And Jean bounded across the planks like a kitten with a brand new toy, running circles of excitement. Shinseai descended below deck to inspect the ship's upgraded layout. From bottom to top, lower cargo hold, middle living quarters and functional workspaces, and a raised wheelhouse offering unobstructed ocean views. 2 towering masts stood upright, a main mast and a mizzenmast, delivering ample propulsion while maintaining agile maneuverability. Crow's nests sat atop each mast for long-distance scouting. Shinseai hauled all supplies into the cargo hold, then retreated to his private bedroom to rest. Hours of non-stop combat had drained his stamina to 30. He needed sleep to recover. Bored with downtime, he opened regional chat to browse the public feed. Online survivors, 501,000. After 2 days of brutal competition, half the initial survivors had perished. It proved this seafaring survival game was no trivial pastime. It was a cruel culling. Water. Anyone got fresh water? I'm Li. My ship's tier 2. I've got 50 units of food. Looking to form a fleet. DM if interested. Will anyone take someone with an F-tier talent? I'll do anything just for a bite to eat. The chat flooded with survivors begging to join Li's fleet for safety and sustenance. Shinseai smiled faintly, glancing at the mountain of supplies locked in his hold, feeling utterly secure. Opening his private messages, he spotted a small crew tag next to Jin's avatar. He'd planned to message her to prepare dinner, but a sudden, awkward realization hit him. Jin was the gullible fool he'd swindled out of a green blueprint for a single barrel of fuel. Shinseai composed himself, steadying his mind. Self-preservation came first above all else. To survive this deadly game, selfishness was mandatory. Now Jin relied entirely on him for survival. A twinge of guilt lingered, so he'd treat her better to make up for it. He sent her a message. I've granted you access to the food storage section of the hold. You're on cooking duty tonight. Staring out at the sunset on deck, Jean froze. She glanced at her private chat window, first pouting, then cracking a soft smile. A divine system announcement echoed across all channels. Global announcement. Warning, natural disaster imminent. All survivors prepare accordingly. Disaster category. Cyclone Woods briefing. In 12 hours, violent cyclone clusters will ravage the entire ocean. Survivors may evacuate to marked safe zones, or venture into the storm to explore for rare loot. Tip: safe zone coordinates marked on your vessel core. Ships with defense above 500 may safely explore within Cyclone Woods. Only 12 hours left. The nearest safe zone is an 18-hour sail away. Why me? Damn that bastard. He fished up every supply crate. I searched the whole day and only found 5. A tier 2 eerie creature is hunting me down. I'll give half my supplies to anyone who can save me. Guy above, hit me up in private messages. Lead the monster over here, I'll handle it. Holy hell, you're already hunting tier 2 beasts while I'm still struggling with tier 1s? Figures, every world has its elites living on easy street. I'm Idolina, selling 16 private photos for 4 barrels of fuel. Once the regional announcement popped up, the chat channel erupted once more. Unlike most survivors, Shinseai had no plans to head for the safe zone. Reaching the safe zone would let him weather this catastrophe risk-free, that much was certain. But Shinseai clung to one firm belief. The bigger the storm, the richer the haul. He intended to venture deep into the raging tempest of this disaster. This catastrophe was far more complex than it seemed. If the only consequence of missing the safe zone was death, the system would never have displayed the minimum defense stat required to explore the disaster zone. This was where his exclusive vessel's broken power shone brightest. The demon's vessel boasted a defense stat of 1,000, double that of ships of the same tier. Where other survivors' Tier 3 ships could barely scrape by exploring the whirlwind forest, Shunxi's demon's vessel could cruise through it with ease. Dinner's ready, and Jean called out from the galley. Shunxi walked into the dining cabin, wherein Jean stood holding a steaming pot of soup. It had just finished cooking, and the pot was scorching hot. The second she set it down, she quickly grabbed her burning ear with her tiny palm. Ow, 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 so hot. Dinner featured 4 dishes and a soup, 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetable sides. Most of the food was still canned goods, yet the pair ate with immense relish. For Jean, this was the most lavish meal she'd had since setting sail to survive. It's so delicious I could cry. Tears streamed down Jin's face as she ate, smudging her cheeks into a tear-streaked mess. Shunxi stood, poured a cup of hot water, and handed it to her. Drink some hot water. And Jean froze mid-bite. What a hopelessly oblivious straight man. I'm crying from gratitude, not sickness. In her inner fantasy, Shunxi hung bound by iron chains while she flogged him relentlessly with a whip soaked in chili brine. Drink hot water, why not tell me to chug magma instead? Shunxi's shrill scream echoed in her head. Hey, you listening to me? After refilling the water cup, Shunxi laid out their next plans for Jean. And Jean chewed her spoon, giggling absently, lost in daydreams. Shunxi snapped her out of her fantasy. He planned to trade all his spare supplies for as many enhancement scrolls as possible. You're the captain, your call. I'm just your poor underling stuck doing all the work. And Jean threw her hands up in resigned agreement. Over the next stretch of time, Shunxi posted trade offers for enhancement scrolls in the regional chat, setting loose trade terms. For the final scroll, he even shelled out 10 units of universal fuel. He hesitated for a full second before accepting the trade, his heart aching at the loss. Ugh, that stings. Consumed. Universal fuel times 150, fresh water times 15 liters, basic living supplies times 20 units. Obtained. Enhancement scroll times 12, pulse dragon fruit times 3. Pulse dragon fruit type, transcendent creature produce quality, blue, fine effect. Instantly restores 100 stamina points upon consumption. Cooldown, 3 hours. Cannot consume another within the cooldown window. Shunxi sent Jean away, then headed alone to the hold warehouse to enhance his wind fruit. This was his biggest secret, one he'd never let anyone discover. Consumed enhancement scroll times 12. Wind fruit proficiency raised to intermediate. Unlocked new skills. Windblade, wind barrier. Shunxi tested his new power briefly. Raising his wind fruit proficiency to intermediate hadn't only unlocked 2 new skills, the potency of his original abilities had skyrocketed as well. Elemental transformation stamina cost dropped from 2 points to 1, and the shift happened far faster. Wind manipulation was another league entirely. Where he'd once only summoned gales blowing in a single direction, he could now whip up full-blown storms and redirect their flow at will. A casual flick of his wrist unleashed an invisible wind blade, carving deep gashes into an iron ingot as if struck by a sword. With a single thought, wind barrier activated. Shunxi unleashed a raging storm straight against the barrier. Once the winds died down, the shield stood unharmed. That's exactly the power I wanted. Shunxi nodded in satisfaction at wind barrier's performance. He headed up to the deck to meet Jean. She'd finished cleaning the deck and was hauling the last crate of clutter back into the cabin, her exhaustion plain on her face. Finish tidying up and head to bed early. And Jin's eyes lit up, and she glanced at him shyly. You get some rest too. Night fell, and Shunxi stood alone at the demon's vessel's bow. Thick black storm clouds blotted the sky, and the sea wind howled with violent force. You get the bed, I meant. There's a spare mattress in the cabinet. Sleep on the floor. Mixing embarrassment and rage, and Jean curled up on the thin floor mat and pulled her quilt tight around herself. All men like him can go to hell. I even wore my cute thigh highs for nothing. The next day, obtained ordinary devil fruit. Zoan dog fruit, model. Husky, it went straight into storage, gathering dust. The ocean winds strengthened by the minute, visible to the naked eye. Shunxi sailed at full speed all morning. Supply crates were shockingly scarce. They'd vanished overnight. Only yesterday the sea had been littered with them, as if someone had rounded every crate and hidden them away in an inaccessible corner. Countdown complete. Catastrophe. Whirlwind forest descends. Duration, 72 hours. Pitch-black storm clouds smothered the sky, heavy enough to crush the breath from one's lungs. Countless tornadoes erupted across the sea, a terrifying sight to behold. Gale winds screamed against the ship's hull with a bone-chilling shriek. Shinseai stood unflinching against the wind, roaring gusts blaring in his ears. He activated wind barrier, and the world instantly fell silent. Powered by its mighty engines, the demon's vessel cut through the storm surges, charging fearlessly through the apocalyptic tempest. Inside a safe zone, calm, still waters filled the safe zone's perimeter. Outside its protective boundary, a ship mere meters from safety was lifted by the gale and sucked into a tornado. Seconds later, vessel and crew were torn to shreds by the cyclone. Within the safe zone, onlookers whistled and jeered cruelly. Others paled in terror, horrified by the tornado's destructive power. Suddenly, a black sailing ship materialized out of nowhere on the horizon, gliding unhurriedly through the raging storm. Hundreds of survivors watched this absurd scene in stunned disbelief. They could not fathom how any vessel could sail unharmed through the disaster. On the demon's vessel, Jean stood at the bow with her arms crossed, forcing a calm gaze toward the distance. Shinseai stood slightly behind and below her. When she turned her head, her eyes locked with the survivors watching from the safe zone. "Look, that orange-haired girl. I can't believe it. She's the captain. The black-haired guy beside her must be her lackey." Buoyed by the demon's vessel's absurdly high defense stat and the shelter of wind barrier, the ship drew steadily closer to the tornadoes beneath the survivors' stunned stares. Shinseai scanned the sea with a grave expression, then a flicker of joy crossed his ashen face. There they are, all the supply crates. Across the churning waves, countless crates clustered around every tornado, forming a spectacular ring like an asteroid belt. The bigger the storm, the richer the haul. The old saying hadn't lied to him. Shinseai's gamble had paid off. While other survivors cowered inside safe zones, surviving off dwindling stockpiles and constantly guarding against neighborly ambushes, Shinseai was surrounded by endless crates, mindlessly repeating the motions of casting and hauling his grappling hook. Loot acquired: iron ingots times 10, copper ingots times 10, salvage net times 1. Salvage net quality: green, good function. Throw out the net to automatically capture floating items. Maximum capacity of 10 units per hull. Great. No more hooking crates one by one. Now I can bag them by the crate load. Crate after crate was hauled onto the deck, and Jean split her time prying open crates and crafting storage chests. Ugh, we've got way too many supplies. Hauling back and forth with 50-unit storage chests is such a hassle. Inside the safe zone, a survivor with the eavesdropper talent heard her words, his eyes blazing with envy as he fixed his gaze on Jin's blurry silhouette. One could only imagine how painful that sentence sounded to someone who'd gone 6 meals without food in 2 days. Beyond standard supplies, Jin's legendary Lucky Koi luck kicked into full gear. A dozen blueprints were laid out before Shinseai, none lower than green quality, with 3 rare blue-tier schematics. Blueprint: heavy Frankish cannon quality, green, good function, rapid reload. Massive area damage against Tier 1 eerie creatures, effective damage against Tier 2 targets. Crafting materials: iron ingots times 30, lumber times 10. Blueprint: basic equipment station quality, blue, fine function, craft generic gear and ammunition. Once learned, automated crafting is available without dedicated item blueprints. Crafting materials: lumber times 20, iron ingots times 20, copper ingots times 10, mechanical parts times 10. Blueprint: mid-tier radar quality, blue, fine function, 100 nautical mile detection range. Automatically locks hostile targets when paired with ship-mounted weapons. Crafting materials: mechanical parts times 10, electronic parts times 10. It was like getting a pillow right when I was dozing off. The demon's vessel had been sorely lacking heavy artillery, and now the Frankish cannons arrived. He finished salvaging all crates circling the tornadoes, and the demon's vessel vanished from the survivors' line of sight. A man with a third eye tattooed across his forehead gripped a strange handheld device, a vicious grin spreading across his face. Time to bare my fangs. Shinjin placed a basic equipment station in an empty cabin, uploaded every blueprint he owned to its database, then crafted 2 heavy Frankish cannons and 40 cannon rounds. Over regional chat, he traded 5 units of food for 10 electronic parts, allowing him to build the mid-tier radar. At last, the demon's vessel possessed genuine combat power. 2 heavy Frankish cannons were mounted on either side of the deck. They were more than enough to wipe out swarms of low-tier creatures. He could build more if needed. Supplies were no shortage for him. Shinseai watched the radar display from the wheelhouse, its screen dotted with hundreds of red blips. Massive horde of eerie creatures detected ahead. Targets locked. Fire? The demon's vessel sailed near another tornado. This one held no supply crates, only an endless horde of eerie creatures. Fire. Boom, boom, boom. Guided by radar targeting, shells slammed dead into the densest clusters of monsters. A flood of kill notifications flashed, showcasing the heavy Frankish cannon's devastating firepower. He reloaded and fired nonstop. Within 10 minutes, every eerie creature had been reduced to salvageable resources stowed in the hold. A distinct object blotted the radar's center of the tornado, and Shin Si squinted into the distance. He could make out the blurry outline of a treasure chest. An inexplicable instinct told him it held extraordinary value. When he attempted to draw near, the ship's core blared a hull damage warning. Shin Si had no choice but to hold back. He would need a ship upgrade, or a far stronger devil fruit, to reach it. Over the next hours, Shin Si tracked down several more tornadoes, reaping mountains of supplies. At midnight sharp, Jean stared nervously at her talent interface. Talent, Heavenly Koi activated. Refreshing fortune stat. Refresh complete. Tier, Golden Supreme Luck. All wishes shall come true. Effect, you and your partner enjoy boundless good fortune. One random wish will be fulfilled. At the exact same moment, Shin Si wore a mysterious smile. Obtained ordinary devil fruit. Paramecia, diamond fruit. With a single thought, the demon's vessel's hull absorbed the diamond fruit. The entire ship glinted with gemstone radiance before the glow faded. Diamond fruit absorbed. Defense plus 2000. Unlocked skill, gemstone vessel. Consumes ship energy to fully crystallize the hull, boosting total defense by 50. 2 days remained until the whirlwind forest catastrophe ended. Not a single moment could be wasted. Deep into the night, Shin Si steered the demon's vessel across the pitch-black sea, slowly drawing near a massive tornado. The hull emitted no creaks, and the ship's core remained silent. The demon's vessel pushed its engines to full power, tearing through the deadly wind vortex. Shin Si stepped onto the deck. Wind barrier drained his stamina rapidly. He needed to act fast. He took a deep breath, steadying his body into peak condition, eyes fixed unwaveringly on the treasure chest at the storm's core. He pushed wind barrier to its absolute limit. For a split second, a pocket of dead calm materialized at the tornado's eye. The salvage net flew out and wrapped tight around the chest. Stamina 20. Obtained treasure chest ×1. Got it. Shin Si steered the demon's vessel to break clear of the tornado at top speed. Back in the wheelhouse, he gasped for breath, watching tensely as Jean pried open the chest. Obtained warrior class initiation scroll ×1. Warrior initiation scroll special item effect. Consumed to unlock the warrior class, stepping onto the path of transcendence. Note: classes split into combat classes, support classes, and special classes. Common combat classes include warrior, mage, archer, and assassin. Ascend to transcendence. This was the true secret behind the catastrophe. Only the most elite survivors could claim this opportunity. By unlocking a class and wielding transcendent power, one could slay eerie creatures and stand a fighting chance against this broken world. He would claim every treasure chest hidden within tornadoes, no matter what. 2 days of the catastrophe remained. Day and night, Shin Si hunted supplies and tracked treasure chests nonstop. Along the way, he crossed paths with other factions bold enough to abandon the safe zone and brave the storm. Hundreds of low-tier ships chained together, struggling to sail as a single fleet. On the largest vessel, a man in a crisp white suit sipped red wine leisurely. One fleet consisted entirely of fuel tankers, their hulls plated in thick, heavy metal, resembling a modern naval battle group from afar. Other rogue survivors sailed all manner of refitted ramshackle ships, attempting to close in on the demon's vessel. Shin Si reasoned with them via his heavy artillery. Boom, boom, boom. He taught them a lesson with the truth of his Frankish cannons. These madmen, their faces marked with red cross paint, charged the demon's vessel full speed in suicidal attacks without a flicker of fear. As expected, the outcome was inevitable. All 5 enemy ships were engulfed in cannon fire. Salvage complete. Acquired. Shin Si broke down their wreckage for salvage. The haul of standard supplies was modest, but he recovered dozens of blood-stained machetes, plus several unique rare items. 5 storm charms, and 1 mysterious stone statue. Storm charm quality: green, good effect. Rune-carved pendant necklace. Shields the wearer from storm damage. Mysterious statue quality: unknown effect, unknown. No wonder these lunatics sailed tiny craft through the tempests. They relied on storm charms for protection. The mastermind behind these maniacs is no ordinary foe. Shenxi's gaze turned ice cold. At this stage of the catastrophe, anyone who could field large quantities of green tier gear was no random nobody. Blood had been spilled between them. Their fates were now intertwined in a fight to the death. Once Shenxi claimed his final treasure chest, the catastrophe, Whirlwind Forest event drew to a close. Over those 3 days, Shenxi and Injin had scavenged day and night for supplies and treasure chests. To sustain his stamina for non-stop salvage runs, he'd eaten every pulse dragon fruit traded earlier, and his stock of life essence was completely depleted. His maximum stamina stat had risen to 65. His muscle definition sharpened, and his entire aura shifted. The perpetual exhaustion from sleepless nights vanished, his eyes burned bright, and he walked with buoyant energy, the very picture of a vibrant, upbeat young man. This proved rising stamina was far more than simple increased physical strength. It marked a fundamental leap in one's life tier. In just 3 days, Shenxi had amassed staggering wealth. Half the hold overflowed with supplies, enough to live in luxury with Injin for an entire month. Basic materials like lumber and iron ingots exceeded 1,000 units each. He now commanded 8 heavy Frankish cannons and 1,000 cannon rounds. With this firepower, he could confidently boast, "I could take on 10 foes single-handedly." This was merely small fry, however. Next to the initiation scroll he'd recovered, all this material wealth paled in comparison. Shenxi held 24 initiation scrolls in total, 10 warrior scrolls, 5 archer scrolls, 5 mage scrolls, plus 1 each for priest, chef, astrologer, and gourmet hunter. Gourmet hunter and astrologer were rare hidden classes. Hidden class, gourmet hunter. Initiation requirement. Consume 1 transcendent food item condition met. In the dining cabin, Shenxi and Injin sat across from one another, every initiation scroll laid out across the table. Injin's eyes kept drifting to the astrologer scroll. Her intuition screamed it was the perfect class for her, but she would never ask Shenxi for it. He'd taken her in and shown her kindness. She'd never dare demand favors from him. "Take this. This class suits you perfectly." He slid the scroll across the table to her. Injin's eyes widened. It was the astrologer initiation scroll. Hidden class, astrologer. Initiation requirement. Possess talents tied to fortune and foresight. After spending so much time together, Shenxi had long since learned the full extent of Injin's unique talent. Destiny Koi. Boasting maxed-out luck stat, it also possesses an overpowered ability, foretelling fortune and misfortune. She's practically a natural astrologer. Injin's eyes reddened as she tried to say something to Shenxi, only to be cut off by him. "Quit all that nonsense. Just take it if I'm giving it to you." Injin stared at Shenxi's retreating back, seemingly resolving to do something. Class assignment successful. Awaken mana, 30/30ths. Sequence class, astrologer. Rank, tier 1. EXP, 0/500 note. EXP is obtained by slaying aberrant creatures. Class skill, seer. Consume mana to peer into the secrets of the stars and glimpse fragments of the future. Thanks to her newly awakened mana, Injin's senses sharpened drastically, growing far more acute and detailed. She could even hear Shenxi's slightly racing heartbeat. Injin told Shenxi all about her physical changes and new class abilities. Shenxi nodded in satisfaction. With Injin's prophecy power, it's like we've got the novel's script laid out. We can foresee dangers ahead and loot treasure chests until our hands cramp. Injin, tell us what will happen tonight. Very well. Injin pressed her palms together and closed her eyes, resembling a penitent nun, faint stardust light emanating from her frame. The glow faded, and before Shenxi could ask anything, Injin fled out of the room, cheeks blazing crimson. Shenxi was utterly confused, unable to make sense of her odd behavior. Shaking his head, he activated a scroll to take up the Gourmet Hunter class. Class assignment successful. Stamina plus 30. Current stamina, 95/95. Sequence class, Gourmet Hunter. Rank, tier 1. EXP, 0/500. Class skill, Glutton. A Gourmet Hunter's core trait is an insatiable appetite. They rapidly restore stamina by consuming massive quantities of food. A scorching current akin to molten magma coursed through every inch of his body, washing over Shenxi with unprecedented comfort. He could flex every muscle in his frame with effortless ease, and all the weariness from years of late nights before his transmigration vanished entirely. The surging power was so immense that merely clenching his fist sent whistling shockwaves cutting through the air. On top of that, he could replenish stamina just by eating. This class was tailor-made for him. Imagine it. One moment Shenxi is drained, completely worn out, yet after a hearty feast, he's back at full strength the next second. Who wouldn't be intimidated by that? That night, Shin Si lay relaxed on the double bed and quickly drifted off to sleep. Half asleep, he felt something like a cat settle on top of him. Shin Si jolted awake instantly, drawing the judge revolver he'd hidden under his pillow. Only then did he clearly see the scene before him. Bathed in the dim glow of the nightlight, and Jean sat cross-legged on the bed in a maid outfit. Her head hung low, too shy to meet his gaze. Shin Si was about to speak when Jean gritted her teeth and threw herself into his arms without warning. Regional chat channel. Online users, 100,000. After the catastrophe's devastation, only 100,000 survivors remained of the original 500,000. Don't fool yourself into thinking the safe zone's guaranteed survival for most. The reality was the exact opposite. The disaster raged for 3 full days, during which survivors had no way to gather supplies. Many starved to death. Others turned their blades on fellow survivors. Outside lay natural disaster. Inside lurked man-made cruelty. The strong seized everything for themselves. Can anyone spare me something to eat? I haven't had a bite in 3 days. Where are the supply crates? Why have they all vanished? It's been 5 days already. There were only 100,000 crates to begin with, all snatched up long ago by the elites who could move freely through the disaster. Anyone got spare weapons to lend? I spotted a pack of aberrants. Once I wipe them out, I'll pay you double supplies. You're dreaming. A single aberrant is tough enough to kill, let alone a whole horde. If you want to die so bad, just jump into the ocean. Peace was impossible this night. Survivors craved an outlet for their pent-up despair and rage. The chat channel flooded with curses and tearful pleas until 3 pinned messages popped up, sending the chat into an absolute frenzy. Soaring Chamber of Commerce spent 100 supply units to post a pinned announcement. Soaring Chamber of Commerce. I am Wang Tung, head of the chamber. We provide long-term supply trading services with ample reserves, including class assignment scrolls. Whatever you seek can be purchased here. Attached image. A white-robed man standing with hands behind his back. Steel Brotherhood spent 150 supply units to post a pinned announcement. Steel Brotherhood, recruiting new members long-term. Only metal vessels accepted. Applicants with class scrolls prioritized. New recruits receive supply support and an immediate 2-level vessel upgrade upon joining. Somewhere out at sea, a fleet of warships surrounded a deep-sea mining vessel, fending off endless swarms of monsters. Cross Gang spent 200 supply units to post a pinned announcement. Cross Gang, all who refuse starvation and dare to fight, come join us. This is a feast of slaughter, we'll kill to our heart's content. Additionally, a bounty is placed on a black sailing ship. Attached image, a mob of maniacs wielding all manner of weapons, cackling wildly at the camera. Soaring Chamber of Commerce, Steel Brotherhood, Cross Gang. Shin Si's nerves tightened the second he laid eyes on the pinned regional chat posts. He'd clearly underestimated the formidable talents scattered across these waters. Slamming his thigh, he made up his mind. I'm still far too weak. I need to boost my strength immediately. Witnessing how effective pinned posts were, Shin Si spent a small stock of supplies to pin a message of his own. Survivor X spent 100 liters fresh water to post a pinned announcement. Class assignment scrolls for sale. DM for inquiries. Priority trades for enhancement scrolls. This single message hit the regional chat like a depth charge, jolting everyone awake. Holy hell, 100 liters of fresh water. What absurdly wealthy big shot is this? Look closely, this pinned post was made by a solo player. Just admire the powerhouse from afar, don't get any stupid ideas. In ocean survival, strength matches resources. Cross someone this powerful, and you'll die without knowing how. Damn it. Meaning our region's got a lone warrior whose power rivals the 3 major factions. Sorry to ask, but what even are class assignment scrolls? You don't know what class scrolls are? How have you survived this long? Class scrolls are treasures coveted by all 3 major factions. Owning one lets you become a sequence class user. It's the chance to transcend mortal bounds and ascend to godhood. Large factions truly operated on another level. The commotion Shin Si sparked in regional chat quickly drew the attention of every major power. Cross Gang, brother. I've got plenty of enhancement scrolls on hand, but I only accept face-to-face trades. Shin Si rolled his eyes. What an idiot. Does he really think everyone's gullible? Insisting only on offline trades? He's clearly planning to rob and kill me once we meet. The other 2 factions acted reasonably, however. After haggling back and forth, Shin Si traded 6 class scrolls for 24 enhancement scrolls. Both sides walked away feeling they'd struck an incredible bargain. Wang Tung, head of the Soaring Chamber of Commerce, thought to himself, I hit the jackpot trading useless enhancement scrolls for class scrolls. Enhancement scrolls only boost skill proficiency. Right now, most survivors aren't even class users yet, and those who are prioritize leveling up by slaying aberrants. The minor gains in skill speed and power from enhancement scrolls are practically negligible. Shinsei also felt he'd gotten an amazing deal. With these enhancement scrolls, his devil fruit proficiency would jump by a massive margin. Consume times 10 enhancement scrolls. Rumble fruit proficiency raised to intermediate. Unlocked skill, Thundernet. Skill 4, Thundernet. Consume stamina to conjure a massive lightning web with a paralyzing effect. Control the web's voltage at will. Thunder crackled across the sky as Shinsei slowly lifted off the ground. Lightning streaked down, and with a wave of his hand, electric serpents coiled around his body. And Jean stared on in stunned awe, gazing adoringly at Shinsei, suspended mid-air like a god. My man is so cool. For the next stretch of time, Shinsei took in Jean to slay aberrants non-stop to raise their class ranks. Ready? I'm ready. On the deck of the devil's vessel, and Jean gripped her rapier tight, standing vigilant. Shinsei snapped his fingers, and the cobalt blue thunder net dissipated. A Tier 1 tentacle sea cucumber charged straight at Jean. The creature looked grotesque, thick as a wooden barrel, 2 meters long, its fleshy body covered in writhing tentacles that churned endlessly, enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Witnessing the aberrant creature triggers discomfort. Sanity 4. Fighting back her nausea, and Jean twisted aside to dodge the flurry of tentacles. She thrust her rapier forward, activating Chain Pierce. The blade blurred into a swordfish's bill, striking more than 20 times in an instant. Sanity restored. Tier 1 aberrant slain. EXP +2. Obtain ×1 red date yogurt 150g. The sea cucumber's corpse oozed a puddle of white slime upon death, and Jean forced herself to clean it up, repulsed the whole time. Jean had asked for this battle. She refused to be a burden to Shinsei. Shinsei was glad to see her resolve, so he passed down the rapier that no longer matched his strength to her. The slender rapier suited Jean perfectly. Long, delicate legs, a narrow waist easy to wrap one hand around. Paired with the ornate rapier, she looked every inch a magical girl warrior. Shinsei, don't you notice something strange? Sure I do. Ever since you became a class user, your appetite's doubled. Jean punched his chest lightly, pouting. Quit joking around. I've noticed all the aberrant corpses we've killed these past few days vanish without a trace. Then why don't you use your prophecy ability to find out? Jean blinked, suddenly realizing her oversight. Right? I have foresight. Why didn't I think to use it? She laughed awkwardly and activated her class skill. A vision unfolded before her eyes. The sea churned violently, and a colossal shark leapt from the waves, jaws split wide to lunge at Shinsei. Jin's mind reeled in terror. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed into Shinsei's arms. She recounted the vision to him, voice thick with worry. Don't fret. Shinsei stroked the top of her head gently. In his eyes, Jin's prophecy didn't guarantee disaster, or at least, it wouldn't end as badly as she feared. Her power only showed fragmented snippets of the future, incomplete and out of context. Shinsei had full faith in his own strength. He leaned in and whispered a plan into Jin's ear. The pair acted as if nothing was amiss, carrying on as normal. Only one thing changed. Instead of tossing slain aberrant corpses overboard immediately, they stacked them all on the deck. That night, Shinsei anchored the vessel in a quiet stretch of water. The radar stood active, cannons loaded, and Shinsei pushed his physical state to peak condition. Once Jean confirmed their daily fortune was minor auspicious, Shinsei tossed the fishing net stuffed full of aberrant corpses over the side. The seawater turned crimson with monster blood as the two scanned the surface relentlessly. Suddenly the ocean surged like an erupting volcano, swelling higher and higher, until a shark over 10 meters long burst forth, sending the net flying. Suspended mid-air, the beast gaped its massive jaws. Gang shark. Race, transcendent creature. Rank, Tier 2. Life stage, adult. Bloodline abilities. Skill 1, gang aggression. Gang sharks are highly social pack creatures. Gain a 20 combat boost when at least 3 allies are present. Combat power drops 20 when outnumbered. Skill 2, rapid regeneration. Burn energy to mend wounds at accelerated speeds. Gang sharks live by one mantra: never back down from a fight. If you cannot kill them in one blow, they will battle you endlessly until you surrender. Evaluation: a shark with gangster tendencies. Provoke it, and you'll face endless trouble. Subdue it, and you gain a loyal underling with 200 loyalty. Seizing his chance, Shinsei planted his feet firmly and hauled the net back aboard the ship with a sharp tug. Its meal snatched away, the gang shark displayed distinctly human displeasure. Huh? Which blind fool dares steal this lady's food? The shark crashed back into the sea with a deafening boom. Shinsei caught its anthropomorphic expression and smirked scornfully. If it's going to hound us nonstop, I might as well beat it into submission here and now. He charged a lightning spear in his palm, ready to counter the shark's incoming attack. Boom. The gang shark exploded out of the waves, striking from behind in a surprise ambush. Its maw, large enough to swallow a car whole, tore through the water straight for Shinsei. The scene matched Jin's prophecy perfectly. Jin's pupils shrank, and she sprinted toward Shinsei without a second thought. Shinsei, however, remained utterly calm. As the shark reached the peak of its leap, he unleashed a spear crackling with devastating lightning, piercing straight through the beast's cheek in a single strike. Racked with agony, the shark tried to dive back underwater, but Shinsei wouldn't let it escape. He activated Thundernet. With a flick of his wrist, a massive web of lightning enveloped the shark entirely. The net plunged into the ocean along with the beast. Every twist and thrash only tightened the electric cage, tearing open its skin with searing voltage. Sharks lack gill pumps. They must swim constantly to avoid suffocating. Trapped within Shinsei's thundernet, the gang shark soon rolled belly up, immobilized. The devil's vessel drifted slowly as the shark gradually regained consciousness. It was as resilient as a cockroach, its rapid regeneration fully healing all prior wounds. Stubborn to the core, the moment the lightning net faded, it dove deep, built up momentum, and charged to attack once more. Maintaining Thundernet drained Shinsei's stamina down to 40 points. But it was no crisis. He grabbed a giant pot of kanji and gulped it down rapidly. His gourmet hunter class let him restore stamina rapidly through mass consumption. As long as food held out, Shinsei had infinite stamina. The sea surged again. This time, Shinsei avoided a head-on clash. He swept Jin into his arms and darted into the cabin, while a sudden gust of wind spun the ship hard sideways. The gang shark crashed full force into the hull. Crash! A thunderous impact echoed across the waves. Hard head, solid skull, no wonder it charged recklessly. The gang shark's eyes rolled back, and it sank belly up once more. Shinsei did nothing to speed its recovery, instead sitting cross-legged on the deck while Jin stood watch. A long time passed, yet the shark remained floating on its back. Still, Shinsei spotted it sneaking glances at him from the corner of its eye. Heh, clever thing, playing dead. Shinsei conjured another lightning spear and tossed it straight at the shark's exposed belly. The spear struck home, and the shark writhed in pain, unable to hold its act any longer. As Shinsei prepared to summon another bolt, the shark twisted its body, wide watery eyes fixed pleadingly on him. It shook its great head side to side and slapped its fins against the water, just like a beaten gangster from old movies begging for mercy. Boss, I was wrong. Stop hitting me. Gang shark subdued, requests to become your underling. Accept? Accept. The second Shinsei agreed. A faint feminine voice echoed in his mind. Hungry, want to eat. Shinsei smiled helplessly and tossed the corpse-filled net back into the sea. The shark didn't hesitate, swallowing the entire net and its contents whole. After finishing its meal, it sidled up to the hull, craning its head out to beg for pets. Shinsei stroked its rough sharkskin, deep in thought. With his encouragement, Jin stepped forward to greet their new crewmate. Moments later, Shinsei retrieved a human fruit from storage. He ordered the gang shark to consume it. The shark leaped excitedly from the waves, opening its jaws wide toward him. Just before it could snap its jaws shut around him, Shinsei tossed the fruit down its throat. Gulp! The 10-meter ocean overlord shrank instantly, transforming into a 2-meter tall young woman with sapphire blue hair. Tall and curvy in all the right places, with sleek athletic muscle lines. No demure maiden, but a tomboy full of restless energy. Sharp, fierce eyes and a mouth lined with razor fangs. Her whole aura reeked of unruly gangster grit, clearly not someone to mess with. The shark girl sank her teeth lightly into Shinsei's shoulder, staring curiously at everything around her. SSA Sasa. What's going on? How'd I turn into a 2-legged land creature? Shinsei smiled softly and explained everything to her. Once the explanation sank in, the shark girl understood her new reality. Since you're a shark, I'll call you Sasa. Got it, boss. Sasa stomped one foot and stood ramrod straight. True to its name, the gang shark was an otherworldly gangster through and through, utterly loyal and honor-bound to its superior. Shinsei assigned Sasa the Cook Life class. Cook was a civilian life class that offered no direct combat boosts. He'd chosen it solely because Sasa's appetite was absurdly massive. She could polish off 20 full meals and still only be 80% full. Shinsei had no shortage of supplies, but preparing that much food wasted hours of their time. Even with Jean helping, the pair spent 2 full hours slaving over the stove every day. Get out of here, I don't need you standing guard. But boss, as your most loyal underling, keeping watch over your rest is my duty. Scram. Swish, thud. A pillow flew out of the bedroom and smacked Sasa square in the head. She tried to argue, but the door slammed shut in her face. Clutching the pillow to her chest, Sasa wandered the corridor with a dejected, confused expression. Why's boss mad? Isn't it only natural for an underling to guard their boss while they sleep? She muttered quietly to herself. This was her first day as a human, and most of her instincts still followed the behavior of a gang shark, a highly social pack species. Every shark pod establishes an alpha through brute force. This alpha calls all the shots for the entire group. Much like the gangster movies, the boss assigns underlings to keep watch at night to stay safe. Sasha's mind was still brand new. She barely knew how to use it. Her massive head swirled with nothing but question marks. Before she knew it, Sasha had wandered up onto the deck. Growl. Sasha rubbed her stomach. She'd just finished eating, yet she was hungry again. It must be all that thinking draining my brain. Definitely not, cause the boss's food was too delicious. Sasha twitched her nose, catching a faint whiff of blood carried on the wind. Got work to do. A flash of crimson glinted in Sasha's eyes. She leaped off the ship and plunged into the sea, her body morphing into a 10-meter gang shark. 1 nautical mile away, 5 Tier 2 vessels crept toward the demon's vessel at minimum cruising speed. On the lead ship, a man with a rooster crest haircut stared greedily in the demon's vessel's direction. Finally caught up. The rooster-crested man polished his bone rocket launcher with the tender care one would give a beloved lover. He'd stumbled upon a treasure chest and looted this weapon after the Cataclysm, Whirlwind Forest event. It was blue-tier gear. 1 shot could break the hull of any Tier 2 ship, and only a few extra rounds would take down a Tier 3 vessel. This weapon was where his confidence came from. A few days prior, he'd watched Shinsei's demon's vessel haul countless supply crates near a tornado. The rooster man's innate talent was tracking, which let him mark other survivors. Armed with this ability, he'd followed the example of the 3 major guilds and rounded up a crew of lackeys. They roamed the open seas hunting fellow survivors and stealing their supplies. He'd marked Shinsei's demon's vessel ages ago, but held off attacking, unsure of Shinsei's true strength. Now that he had the bone rocket launcher, he lacked nothing. Closer, a little closer. The rooster man raised the rocket launcher, peering through its electronic scope, ready to fire at maximum effective range. Suddenly the ocean surface turned turbulent, waves slamming hard against the hulls. The man lost his balance and crashed onto the deck with a heavy thud. Damn it, where are these waves coming from with no wind? He scrambled to grab the launcher and realign his sights, only to witness a nightmarish sight through the scope. A 10-meter colossal shark breached the water at an impossible angle. Its abyss-like jaws clamped down on one sailboat, tearing off most of its bow. The survivors rushed to grab materials to repair the damage, but the shark lunged upward once more before they could finish. It swallowed the entire boat, and everyone aboard in one gulp. They didn't even get a chance to scream. Cold dread flooded the rooster man's body. He knew he'd stumbled upon a genuine monster. That morning, he'd gone to relieve himself and caught a glimpse of a terrifying dark shape gliding beneath the waves. He never expected to cross paths with it here. Another ship sank beneath the waves. Panicked, the rooster man fired the bone rocket launcher wildly at the ocean. Boom, boom, boom. The launcher packed devastating firepower against wooden ships, yet its impact barely scratched a marine beast like Sasha. Ah! His last underling got tossed flying by Sasha. He shrieked mid-air before dying. The rooster man tossed aside his empty rocket launcher, sprinted into the cockpit, and slammed a red button. The fuel ship's engine wailed as it lurched forward, speeding away in the opposite direction. Shit, rotten luck. Once he'd done all he could, he glanced back at the stern. No shark fin cut the water, no strange ripples churned the surface. Phew. Thank God this thing's huge and slow. I would have died tonight otherwise. Don't make Sasha laugh. He thought that pathetic speed would let him escape the ocean's apex predator? What a delusional daydream. The ground beneath his feet vanished. A massive wave twisted 180 degrees, flipping his entire vessel upside down and dragging him under the sea. Before he could swim for the surface, that horrifying shadow descended upon him. Deep in the endless ocean, a 10-meter, 2-story tall shark glided slowly past. Its basketball-sized eyes radiated unbridled killing intent. Primal terror of the deep sea giant washed over him. Overwhelmed by fear, The rooster man flailed his limbs uncontrollably. Seawater flooded his mouth, and he clamped a hand over his lips in a panic. Sasha spared him prolonged suffering, swallowing the man and his boat whole in one crunching bite. Late that night, on the deck of the demon's vessel, Sasha sat atop piles of supplies, sampling all kinds of human food. This was her haul from wiping out those 5 ships. As a loyal subordinate, she'd never touch Boss Shinse's belongings without permission. Among gang shark kind, stealing your leader's goods warranted brutal punishment. The next day, Sasha chased down those skeleton piranhas and sent them flying. Got it. Sasha dove into the sea without so much as a splash. Seconds later, a towering tsunami erupted across the water, sending swarms of skeleton piranhas soaring skyward from her shark form's charge. The sight looked absurd. Dozens of half-meter skeleton piranhas tossed aside by a 10-meter leviathan, like an elephant batting rubber balls. Killed skeleton piranha, EXP plus 10. Current EXP, 256/500. Ugh. Aimlessly wandering the ocean hunting odd creatures to grind levels is far too slow. Shinse sighed in frustration. Ever since supply crates vanished, the number of supernatural sea monsters had dwindled. For most survivors, this was a blessing, but for Shinse, it spelled massive trouble. Visions of Nightfall Town flashed through his mind. That tiny Nightfall Island alone hosted over 50 supernatural creatures. What faster way to farm EXP than exploring islands? He needed to grind levels to boost his strength, and upgrading the demon's vessel to LV.4 required 100 units of green tier timber. Spend 100 food units to post a pinned global message. Wanted, island coordinates. Will trade any basic supplies. Note, upgrade scrolls available for trade. Upgrade scrolls were rare, coveted treasures for other survivors, but they meant nothing to Shinse. Ignoring weapons and gear, just his own power alone spoke volumes. He possessed 2 Logia Devil Fruits plus the Hunter Gourmet talent, placing him firmly at the peak of Tier 2 strength. He had no shortage of upgrade scrolls whatsoever. Upgrade scrolls. Did I read that right? You read it straight, buddy. We risk our lives fighting supernatural beasts just for a slim shot at one scroll. And this guy's handing them out for island locations. Ugh. Quit moping. Anyone who knows an island's coordinates, hit this big shot up in private chat. Free scrolls for nothing. Perhaps the lure of upgrade scrolls kept foolish troublemakers at bay. Very few people messaged him, and all those who did genuinely held island coordinates. Shinse chatted briefly with several respondents, before receiving the intel he sought from a man calling himself Axe. Where are you from, mate? Changsha. Changsha. We're hometown brothers. I've got coordinates for a medium-sized island. You interested? Attached image, a densely wooded island with a pitch-black cave set into its hillside. Location coordinates attached. What a schemer. Even in this survival voyage, he pulled the classic hometown pal who stabs you in the back trick. The coordinates were embedded in the screenshot, impossible to fake. Whatever trap the man laid, the medium-sized island itself was real. Same hometown. Let's see whose blade strikes faster. Sasha returned to the ship, and the demon's vessel set sail at full speed. Meanwhile, on Bloodbath Island, a burly man wrenched his giant axe free from a dead survivor's body. A cunning grin tugged at his lips as he stared at the global chat window. The lambs walked into the trap. This was Axe. His surrounding underlings cackled maniacally in response. Boys, nail this job, and we'll get into the cross gang. Drag the corpses into the cave, and the rest of you hide yourselves out of sight. True to its name, Bloodbath Island was a medium landmass shaped like a bat. Thick forest blanketed the isle, with a lone hill rising from its center. A shadowy cave nestled on the hill's shaded side. Standing on the beach, Jean activated her prophecy ability. Moments later, Shinse learned the island was occupied by hunters targeting survivors, led by the brute known as Axe. Shinse blew the head off a Tier 1 supernatural beast with one shot, holstering his judge handgun. Dark shadows flickered through the dense woods. Now we've got monsters to slay and free supplies handed to us on a platter. This island was the perfect stop. Sasha slung the bone rocket launcher over her back, hoisting 4 storage crates, 2 balanced in each arm. They brimmed with supplies, 50 rocket rounds, instant meals, and 2 medical kits. Sasha's accelerated self-healing rendered kits useless for her. Shinse had bought them for himself and Jean. Medical kit tier, green, excellent uses remaining, 7 out of 7 effect. Consume 1 use to rapidly heal a single non-lethal wound. Note, only effective on targets with under 100 stamina. No healing effect above 100 stamina. Shinse led the way, Sasha brought up the rear, and Jean stayed safely sandwiched between them. The three ventured inland. Shinseai made deliberate noise as they traveled. First, to signal Axe's crew that they'd landed. Second, to draw out supernatural creatures. Squeak a shrill, rat-like screech cut through the air, louder and sharper than any rodent's cry. A dozen human-sized black bat monsters charged straight for the trio. Boom. A single rocket blast flattened every bat beast on the spot, and Jean stepped forward, finishing off each fallen monster with her knight's sword. Killed Tier 1 supernatural creature times 16, EXP, 334/500. The strategy worked brilliantly. Just clearing the island's outer perimeter netted Shinseai and Engine nearly 100 EXP points. Breaking through to the next tier was all but guaranteed. If they could also find green tier timber, it'd be perfect. Sasha caught a concentrated human scent near the cave, so Shinseai decided to circle wide around it for now. They'd return once they hit tier 2. When facing enemies, look down on them strategically, yet take every precaution tactically. If you can overwhelm your foes, never take unnecessary risks. As they ventured deeper inland, the supernatural creatures grew stronger. A piercing shriek hit them, sending a jolt through Shinseai's group and slowing all their movements. A massive abomination launched its attack. It bore a bat's body topped with a human face, its skin pale and desiccated. Its eyes blazed with madness, its mouth stretched wide to its jawline, sharp fangs glinting like cold metal. Human-faced bloodbat tier 2 ability, Stunning Screech. Unleash a piercing cry that slows all creatures within earshot. The human-faced bloodbat lunged for Engine, the weakest of the three. Thud! It slammed into an invisible barrier, its crazed gaze clearing instantly. This human held terrifying power. Without hesitation, the beast spun and fled. Shinseai dismissed his wind barrier. Sasha raised the rocket launcher and fired. The human-faced bloodbat narrowly dodged the blast and vanished into the thick trees. After it, Shinseai sprinted in pursuit. The stranger the monster's appearance, the better its loot drop rate. He intended to slay this bloodbat at all costs. With Sasha's hypersensitive nose tracking the scent, the three chased the beast relentlessly until they reached an abandoned village. The village sat in a shaded valley, towering ancient trees blocking nearly all sunlight. Weeds overran every corner, erasing most traces of human settlement. Only a handful of intact houses proved people had once lived here. Pointed roofs rose above the overgrowth, with no windows, only waist-tall wooden doorways. Sasha sniffed the air and pointed toward the largest house at the village's center. Shinseai reacted instantly, hurling his thunder spear straight through the wall to pin the hiding human-faced bloodbat to the floor. Sasha, his top subordinate, crashed through the wall next. She grabbed the bloodbat by its tail and slammed it repeatedly against the stone floor. Just as Sasha lined up a point-blank RPG shot, Shinseai stopped her. Engine, your talent boosts loot luck. You land the killing blow on this new monster. Engine drove her rapier through the bloodbat's skull, twisting the blade for good measure. Killed Tier 2 supernatural creature, EXP +10. Obtained Blueprint, Shadow Bat Blood Armor Chestplate. Blueprint, Shadow Bat Blood Armor Chestplate. Crafting requirement, 20 obsidian, 10 leather to forge this chestplate. With the bloodbat slain, Shinseai turned his attention to the house interior. The room was dim, dominated by a long central table lined with half-standing Western-style coffins. He lit a candle on the table, casting faint light across the space. His gaze locked onto a notebook clutched in the bony grip of a skull. He flipped open the notebook, and its unknown script automatically translated before his eyes. Notebook entries. It failed. The experiment to sustain our bloodline has failed once more. The twin moons hang low in the sky. Wolf peach fruit could not suppress our clan's affliction. I should have known better. How could the fruit of a Tier 1 supernatural plant ever counter a relic's curse? The relic's influence has driven every clan member mad. Slaughter, blood, all offered up to. No, I will not succumb to the same fate. For the sake of our bloodline, I must record everything, to warn those who come after us. Shinseai closed the notebook, his eyes lighting up. A relic, Tier 1 supernatural plants. This just keeps getting more interesting. Boss, look, there's someone alive over here. Sasha shoved aside the most unassuming coffin in the corner, revealing a white-haired beauty lying motionless inside. A pool of crimson blood beneath her explained her unconscious state. Shinseai glanced over, lost interest, and turned to leave, until a cold hand suddenly clamped around his wrist. The white-haired woman gripped his arm weakly, her voice faint. Save me. Shinseai pulled his hand free to walk away. He was no saint. The woman was clearly dying, but that was none of his concern. He only cared for himself and Jean, and Sasha. The lives of strangers meant nothing to him. And Jean said nothing. She understood Shinsi's reasoning. As for Sasha, why bother explaining compassion to a shark? The white-haired woman's name was Yu Zhao, the true leader of Axe's gang. Their original goal for this island trip had been gathering supplies. But once Axe laid eyes on whatever lay hidden in the cave, he betrayed her without warning. Yu Zhao had fought tooth and nail to escape, fleeing all the way to this abandoned village. She fixed a sharp, ruthless stare on Shinsi. A man named Axe hunts other survivors on this island. I seek revenge against him, and the Cross Gang backing him. If you spare my life, I'll forfeit every supply I own. I'll act as your cannon fodder. I'll fight Axe first, and the battle won't end until one of us lies dead. That's not enough. Shinsi's tone held zero emotion. Yu Zhao's gaze dimmed, and she closed her eyes, resigned to her fate. After you've exacted your revenge, you'll join my ship as a combat crew member. Desperate to survive and avenge herself, Yu Zhao had no choice but to accept his one-sided terms. Very well. Shinsi did not glance back, giving Jean a subtle confirming nod. And Jean exhaled in relief and pulled out a medical kit to heal Yu Zhao. Yu Zhao's wounds were severe. It took the kit's full 7 uses to mend her injuries completely. Acting as if no one else existed, Yu Zhao sat back in her coffin once healed. She twisted a ring off her finger to retrieve food, eating to regain her strength, then drew a massive 2-handed sword. She held the ring out to Shinsi. This is a storage ring. It can hold 1 cubic meter of non-living objects. Shinsi took it and casually passed it to Jean. He'd taken a liking to Yu Zhao's decisive, unflinching combat style and her formidable strength. After all, a woman who commanded a crew of ruthless outlaws had to possess immense power to survive. The deal is struck. Now show me what you're capable of. Yu Zhao caught his meaning and strode straight into the woods. It was like clearing a dungeon in a game. You needed to gauge your party members' strength before diving into battle, otherwise you'd just be saddled with dead weight instead of an ally. For the next stretch of time, Shinsi ordered Yu Zhao to cripple supernatural beasts, leaving the finishing blows to himself and Jean. The island teemed with monsters, and before long, both Shinsi and Jean broke through to Tier 2. After his breakthrough, Shinsi's stamina rose by another 30 points, and his class ability's stamina recovery speed increased by a third. Once his stamina surpassed 100, Shinsi felt utterly transformed. His skin grew smooth and supple as an infant's, his frame and muscle mass sculpted to humanity's absolute physical peak. Beneath his skin surged explosive power. He could easily defeat 3 versions of his former self single-handedly. And Jin's upgrade was far simpler. Tier 2 unlocked a second daily prophecy use. Shinsi fully recognized Yu Zhao's strength. He might even call it admirable. Unlike Shinsi's raw, overwhelming power, Yu Zhao's combat relied entirely on refined technique. She fought like a master swordsman straight out of wuxia dramas, handling monster assaults with effortless grace. Tier 1 beasts fell to her in mere strokes, while Tier 2 foes pushed her to her limits. The human-faced bloodbath had forced her into a grueling, drawn-out duel. A solid mid-Tier 2 fighter with great fundamentals. With proper training under me, she'll grow far stronger. Shinsi muttered to himself. Now that they'd reached Tier 2, it was time to wrap everything up. Shinsi's group marched toward the cave entrance. The air reeked of gloom. Malnourished gray-green vegetation twisted and clawed at every surface, casting eerie, flickering shadows. From the foot of the hill, the entire mountain loomed like a giant beast's open maw, 2 overhanging rock spires mimicking vampire fangs. An open clearing stretched outside the cave mouth. Yu Zhao stood centered in the empty space, while Shinsi, Sasha, and Jean concealed themselves in the shadows. Yu Zhao rested one hand on her sword hilt, her eyes sharp with killing intent as she scanned the surroundings. Watching her stand ready, Shinsi's group felt a strange anticipation. It mirrored the crowd watching a legendary duel, waiting for the battle's opening challenge. Axe, you traitor, come out and face me. Axe's voice echoed from the cave. Do you take me for a fool? You think I'll walk out just cause you called? Shinsi, Sasha, and Jean all stared on, speechless. Shinsi opened the regional chat and bombarded Yu Zhao with a flood of messages. When she saw the messages, Yu Zhao froze for a split second. Then her eyes lit up as if she'd discovered an uncharted new continent. Axe, you pervert. Why bulk up with all that useless muscle? Don't you know moderate fitness attracts the opposite sex, but excessive fitness only draws the same sex? And that ridiculous giant axe of yours, did you steal it off a billboard? The most laughable part is you wanting to join the Cross Gang. You total idiot. Do you really think your measly strength qualifies you to be a squad leader? Anyone would lose their temper reading those words. Enraged, Giant Axe slammed his fist into the ground, leaving a small crater. He gritted his teeth and stormed over to Yu Zhao. You noisy hag, what are you squawking about? I'll kill you this time for sure. His underlings burst into mocking laughter. All these men swore allegiance to Giant Axe. They were reckless outlaws. Yu Zhao's ordinary survivor subordinates had all died protecting her during Giant Axe's betrayal. A fight was imminent. Yu Zhao weaved through the crowd like a nimble serpent. One goon after another crumpled to the ground, screaming in agony as they stared at their wounds in despair. This was revenge, and Yu Zhao would show no mercy. Every fallen foe suffered broken limbs, trapped between life and death, subjected to pure torture. Giant Axe landed a blow that sent Yu Zhao reeling, then gestured to a minor gang leader. The underling opened his mouth and let out a shrill cry akin to a bat's distress call. Yu Zhao circled around Giant Axe and beheaded the man with one sword strike, but it was already too late. With piercing screeches, more than 20 human-headed blood bats swarmed out of the cave. At the sight of the creatures, Yu Zhao tensed up completely. She had lost the last time to a combined assault of Giant Axe and these bats, and now there were far more of them. Shen Xiai knew Yu Zhao could not hold them off alone. The three of them leapt into battle without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. Sasha unloaded a wild barrage of fire from her skeletal rocket launcher. She'd been cooped up and itching for a fight ever since they landed on the island. The boss and sister and Jean needed to level up, so she'd been forbidden from using the rocket launcher. Now she could let loose to her heart's content. Who could say no to a spectacular fireworks display of explosions? Ha! This is what I'm talking about. Battles are thrilling. Half of her 50 rocket rounds vanished in an instant. Sasha reached for more ammo, only to get a sharp flick to the forehead from Shen Xiai. Do you have any idea how many resources each rocket costs? No dinner for you tonight. Sasha clutched her stinging forehead and stared up at Shen Xiai with a pitiful look. Shen Xiai pretended not to notice and strode toward the battlefield. He pulled Yu Zhao up, still dazed from the rocket blasts, and turned his gaze to the center of the fight. A massive pulsing flesh mound sat in a blast crater, with an eerie statue floating above it. Shen Xiai recognized it at once. It was identical to the statues wielded by the fanatics they'd annihilated with artillery during the natural disasters earlier. This cross-gang was far more dangerous than they seemed. Multiple sacred statues meant they possessed the means to craft special rare items. To this day, Shen Xiai had never laid hands on a blueprint for manufacturing such artifacts. A deafening crash cut through his train of thought. A monstrous goat beast emerged, its body pitch black with horizontal slit pupils and enormous horns sprouting from its crown. Corrupted follower. Rank: Tier 2 mid-evolution. Skill: unknown. Tier 2. And still evolving. Sasha blasted to smithereens. This wasn't a game. No one would stand around waiting for a monster to enter its second phase. Shen Xiai instantly trapped the Giant Axe, now transformed into the corrupted follower, with a lightning net. Rockets, lightning spears, wind blades. They threw every attack they had at the beast. 10 minutes later, Yu Zhao drove her sword straight through Giant Axe's forehead. He went limp, lifeless. Following Shen Xi's orders, Sasha hacked his corpse to mincemeat with his own axe to prevent any chance of resurrection. The brute's regenerative abilities were absurdly powerful. They'd unloaded full firepower on him for 5 whole minutes before he finally died. Once they finished clearing the battlefield, Yu Zhao handed over all the looted supplies to Shen Xiai as agreed. Basic materials amounted to roughly 600 units, and they'd fully collected the blueprint for the Shadow Bat blood armor set. They only needed green-grade timber to complete all objectives for this island expedition. The group ventured into the cave, with Yu Zhao taking the lead as always. The cave was not pitch black. Faint light filtered down from the ceiling, and Jean lit candles they'd brought from the abandoned village. They advanced cautiously, exploring their surroundings. The ground was littered with desiccated animal carcasses, mixed with occasional human remains whose skin still looked fresh. Deeper inside, a strange skeleton came into view. It stood over 2 meters tall, lined with long, sharp fangs. Vampire skeleton. Function: unrefined. If cleaned properly, it could make a fine collectible. They pressed onward, spotting scattered vampire skeletons all around, clear proof that a horrific massacre had unfolded here long ago. They turned on each other. At the cave's deepest recess rested a pale great sword embedded in an altar. Blooddrinker's sword. Grade: Golden Mythic. Status: sealed. Passive skills: Skill 1, Blood Absorption. The sword siphons blood from slain targets to amplify its strike power and slowly heal its wielder's wounds. Skill 2. Soul Inheritance. Upon killing an enemy, the sword devours their soul, granting the wielder access to their combat experience and techniques. Note: activating soul inheritance forces the wielder to relive the victim's entire life. The flood of foreign memories risks driving them insane. Evaluation: a cursed blade. It once served as the Empire's foundation, yet became the key to its downfall. It awaits a true master. The Blooddrinker's sword was unclaimed, so everyone could view its stat panel. Yu Zhao's eyes drifted instinctively toward Shen Xiai. Shen Xiai swallowed hard. I don't want it. This was no divine artifact. It was a demonic blade through and through. And Jean nodded in agreement. Sasha paid the sword no mind at all. What was so great about it? Could it compare to the giant axe in her hands? One swing, and it'd spray red liquid everywhere. No one showed any interest in the cursed sword, and they prepared to leave. They hadn't found the wolf peach trees yet, and there were still piles of uncollected resources scattered across the island. Suddenly, a strange wind whipped through the cave. Blood from the battlefield and the lingering souls of the dead surged toward the Blooddrinker's sword. An invisible crushing pressure weighed down on the group in an instant. A wall of blood enclosed them, and maddening whispers echoed in their ears. The Sword Master trial commences. Draw the Blooddrinker's sword to claim mastery, or face annihilation. Incomprehensible knowledge flooded Shen Xi's mind, threatening to split his skull open. His irises turned deep crimson, and swarms of negative emotions welled up within him, stoking an urge to slaughter anyone beside him. Corrupted by maddening whispers, sanity 1. His sanity plummeted rapidly. Shen Xiai instinctively unleashed the lightning of his rumble fruit, currents coiling around his entire body. The whispers faded slightly, yet his sanity continued to drain away. I'll take my chances. The weight bearing down on him lessened, and Shen Xiai moved to approach the Blooddrinker's sword. Better to strike first than wait helplessly for death. Shen Xiai was never one to hesitate. He rose to every challenge when given a chance. Just then, a slender, icy figure stepped between him and the altar. Yu Zhao? What are you doing? Shen Xiai stared at her in shock. Her white hair was disheveled, and her frail frame trembled from straining against the oppressive aura. She gripped her long sword tight, her gaze sharp and unyielding, radiating a stubborn, indomitable resolve that touched them all. I'm keeping my promise. My talent is clear sword heart. It severs all distracting thoughts, uniting blade and wielder as one. Let me go first. Moved by her determination, Shen Xiai halted his advance and channeled a portion of his lightning to shield her. The pressure grew heavier with every step toward the altar, yet Yu Zhao climbed steadily, one foot planted firmly after another. At last she reached the altar and wrapped both hands around the sword's hilt. The Blooddrinker's sword shuddered, and countless materialized souls erupted forth, charging her in a frenzied assault. Lightning net. Shen Xiai poured all his power into weaving a massive net of arm-thick lightning, blocking the vengeful spirits. Yu Zhao shot him a grateful glance. Shen Xiai gave a quiet nod. Words were unnecessary in a life-or-death moment. She'd shared her unique talent with him the very first day they met. That trust alone made Shen Xiai willing to bet everything on her. On top of that, her talent was a natural counter to the Blooddrinker's sword's curse, and he possessed the rumble fruit to back her up. It was almost as if this demonic blade had been waiting specifically for Yu Zhao. She was clearly the chosen one. 1,000 years of chaotic memories flooded Yu Zhao's mind, tearing at her consciousness as if someone were yanking her brain apart. Her talent clear sword heart activated. A phantom ancient sword materialized within her thoughts. Its radiant blade sliced through every chaotic memory, clearing her mind completely. Trial complete. Survivor Yu Zhao has become the sword master. Yu Zhao stepped down from the altar and held the Blooddrinker's sword out to Shen Xiai. Shen Xiai had exhausted nearly all his power maintaining the lightning net, and was now shoveling food to restore his stamina. It's yours. Take it, just take it. Shen Xiai flat out refused the sword. In all their time sailing the survival seas, this was the only artifact that had rattled him to his core. The blade filled him with dread. Besides, he had no shortage of divine artifacts of his own. His perfect devil fruit was already golden mythic grade. He would acquire countless more treasures of that caliber in the future. A single cursed demonic blade was nothing to him. Still, Shen Xi's respect for Yu Zhao deepened. What an unwavering, straightforward woman. Yu Zhao took back the Blooddrinker's sword, and the group exited the cave to search for the wolf peach trees. They finally found them hidden in a secluded basin. Wolf peach tier 1 plant. Grade, green, excellent. Function, wolf peach fruit is rich in iron, and can substitute blood as sustenance for blood-draining creatures. Note, the wolf peach is carnivorous. Its roots strangle animals that draw near. The higher the creature's rank, the faster the tree grows. Evaluation, a plain Tier 1 plant. No vampires here. Might as well harvest it for materials. The basin was shrouded in thick jungle, with only a winding narrow path leading down to its floor. The wolf peach trees were vivid emerald green, half their roots buried underground and half exposed to open air. Skeletal remains were tangled within the exposed roots, identical to the skeletons they'd seen in the abandoned village. Shinsei let out a scornful laugh. How ridiculous. Those journals went on and on about preserving their clan's bloodline, yet they fed their own kin to these wolf peach trees. Mid-thought, Sasha's shrill scream cut through the air. Ugh, damn it. How dare some plant ambush me, of all people? The exposed tree roots had snuck up and ensnared her. Sasha swung her giant axe at the twisting roots coiling around her limbs. A dull thud echoed. The roots remained unsevered, only marked with a shallow gash oozing sap. Sasha cursed loudly, ready to hack away again, but Shinsei held her back. Yu Zhao, try the Blood Drinker sword. Me? Yes. Yu Zhao pointed back and forth between herself and the mythic sword, dumbfounded. This was a legendary artifact, being used to cut down trees? Fine, fine. He'd been far too kind to her, even surrendering a divine blade. She could never repay that debt. And so, a powerful Tier 2 warrior wielded a mythic sword, methodically chopping down wolf peach trees. The rest did not idle either. Shinsei summoned the Devil's Vessel. Sasha hoisted her giant axe and rampaged through the ordinary forest, felling trees left and right. Timber rained down from the sky, and Jean stood aboard the Devil's Vessel, scribbling down every resource they collected, her quill nearly smoking from constant writing. Shinsei lounged on a beach chair, breathing in the sea breeze and sipping coconut juice as he posted trade listings, exchanging massive stockpiles of basic materials for rare blueprints and other coveted supplies. Boss, you're really trading 100 timber for a single obsidian unit. Busy, can't chat longer. Thank you so much, boss. May you live forever and never perish. Wang Tung, Ascent Trading Company. Buddy, you've got this mountain of supplies. Did you clear a medium-sized island? Confidential. All right. I'm a merchant. I only care about profit, nothing else. Wang Tung bought 500 units of Shinsei's surplus materials, mostly timber and dirt. Shinsei barely needed these resources anymore, so trading them lightened his load. Seeing how smoothly Wang Tung handled the transaction, Shinsei sold him all the leftover wolf peach timber as well. Trade successful. Consumed wolf peach timber times 13. Obtained enhancement scroll times 26. Whoa man, you're insane. You even got your hands on supernatural plants. Must have cost you a fortune to gather all this timber. Shinsei snickered reading the chat message. It had cost quite a lot. Actually, the Blood Drinker sword's blade had dulled and nicked from cutting trees non-stop these past few days. A day later, Yu Zhao stood on a speedboat, locking eyes with the group aboard the Devil's Vessel. You're leaving? Yeah, right now. I have to avenge my people against the Cross Gang. If not for them, my subordinates would still be alive. Remember our promise. I will. If I make it back alive, I'll be your sharpest blade. They watched her boat pull away. A heavy silence fell over the group. Though they'd only traveled together a short while, everyone had grown unexpectedly close to Yu Zhao. To Shinsei, and Jean and Sasha, Yu Zhao was steadfast, brave, and fiercely loyal. In this cutthroat survival world, she dared declare war on the Cross Gang to avenge her slain followers. From Yu Zhao's perspective, the three of them worked in perfect harmony, supporting one another, the exact kind of companions she'd always dreamed of having. Sensing the somber mood, Shinsei cracked a joke to lighten the air. What's with the long faces? It's not a permanent goodbye, no need to mope like this. I haven't even shed a tear over all the unclaimed resources left on the island. You heartless brute. And Jean and Sasha shouted. And Jean and Sasha turned their backs to busy themselves with their own tasks. Shinsei had only meant to tease them. He cared nothing for the leftover basic materials on the island. He owned a ship armed with heavy artillery. If he needed more base supplies, he could simply conquer another small island. Surely no one else struggled to clear even a tiny island, right? Elsewhere, on a minor island, a band of survivors fled for their lives, chased by a Tier 2 obsidian rhinoceros. Their leader, a mid-tier Tier 1 fighter, had discarded his weapons to lighten his load, scrambling on all fours to escape. Are you kidding me? Who's really clearing these islands anyway? Can anyone fully take down a beast like this? Ship upgrade requirements met. Proceed with upgrade? Yes. Materials consumed. Enhancement scroll times 10. Timber times 400. iron ingot times 100, copper ingot times 50, mechanical parts times 50, aberrant creature remains times 60, Tier 1 wolf peach timber times 100. Upgrade complete. Current vessel level, LV.4. Vessel name, Devil's Vessel. Level, LV.4. Owner, Shinsei. Crew, Engine, Sasha. Length, 60 meters. Displacement, 300 tons. Speed, 50 knots. Base. Defense, 4,000. Ignores Tier 3 creature attacks. Magic resistance, 200. Note. Vessels with magic resistance shield against spells, maddening whispers, and corruption. Durability, 100. Equipped armament, 8 Frankie heavy artillery pieces, 5,000 reserve rounds. Intermediate radar, equipment forge. Unique trait, Devour evolution. The entire hull is forged from special matter. It can absorb all substances to evolve endlessly. Evaluation, at level 4, the vessel gains magic resistance. This is your entry ticket. The true age of ocean survival has only just begun. Though the ship's overall length barely changed after the upgrade, its appearance underwent a dramatic transformation. Its hull was no longer solid black, but a deep crimson red. The surface was no longer plain. Twisted, ferocious runes did not merely adorn it, they grew forth from the hull itself. It radiated an oppressive, terrifying aura, less like a ship and more like some unknown leviathan. The cabin's sharp industrial geometric design was replaced with understated, opulent European Gothic styling. Matte flooring, a classic square stone fireplace, an extra-long marble dining table, an open-air swimming pool, and ultra-plush solid wood beds filled the space. If the old Devil's Vessel had felt like a cozy, small home, the upgraded cabin was a luxury private castle. Shinsei was 90% satisfied with the renovated ship, with only one minor flaw. The storage hold in the lower deck was still far too cramped. Ship upgrade successful. Reward, perfect grade devil fruit. Paramecia, book fruit. A cantaloupe-shaped fruit patterned like stacked pages materialized in Shinsei's palm. He bit into it without hesitation. Bloodline ability acquired. Paramecia, book fruit. Bloodline skill, book fruit. Grade, golden mythic. Mastery level, novice. Skill 1, book world. Expend stamina to generate a pocket dimension within a book. The dimension's size scales with stamina cost and fruit mastery. Time stands still inside the book world, and living creatures may be sealed within. After reading the fruit's description, only one word summed up his feelings. Awesome. He'd been stressing over limited storage space, and the book fruit solved the problem entirely. Shinsei pulled out a plain notebook from a storage crate. These blue-grade crates had been traded to Wang Tung in exchange for mountains of basic bat-derived materials. Each held 100 resource units and featured built-in cold storage. He would no longer need them. Soft light emanated from the notebook, and mountains of storage crates floated into the book world. 5 stamina expended to manifest book world. He flipped open the notebook, its pages filled with clear miniature images of every crate, complete with all the labels Jean had marked on them. He also thought of the storage ring Yu Zhao had gifted him. If crates could be stored inside the book world, could he create an infinite nested storage loop? Place supplies in crates, seal crates in the book world, store the book inside the ring, and repeat indefinitely. Unfortunately, it was impossible. After repeated testing, Shinsei uncovered a hard rule. Book worlds cannot be layered. The notebook housing a book world could be placed inside crates or spatial rings. Yet any container holding the notebook could not be sealed inside a second book world. Perhaps the 2 pocket dimensions repelled each other? Or maybe the storage gear was simply too low grade. Either way, it did not matter. Shinsei pulled out 33 enhancement scrolls and instantly boosted his fruit mastery. Consumed enhancement scroll times 33. Book fruit mastery raised to intermediate. No new skills unlocked? That was not necessarily a bad thing. Shinsei could clearly feel that expending the same amount of stamina now created a book world space 10 times larger than before. Shinsei stuffed all supplies from the storage hold's long cargo pants into 3 books using 2 other volumes. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Shinsei's mouth upon seeing this effect. A mid-tier space was already this overpowered. This was practically infinite storage. I've got to tell Jean this good news. She's been stressed out over having nowhere to stow all her supplies. He snapped his fingers, and the supplies materialized back out again. And Jean walked in right at that moment, nearly jumping out of her skin at Shinsei's trick. Stepping through the door, she blurted out, "What's going on? Where did all my massive stockpile go? It's just vanished." She figured she must have opened the door wrong somehow. She stepped back outside, shut the door, and opened it once more. Holy hell, how are supplies pouring out of a book? Meow. The cat was confused. The cat was shocked. Then the cat flopped over and fell fast asleep. Hearing the commotion behind him, Shinsi darted sideways and caught Jean steady before she could collapse. Just a minor mishap, nothing worth dwelling on. Once Jean learned of Shinsi's newly awakened talent, she leaped up and clung to his frame, her gaze softening and growing hazy. Ding. Private message from survivor Pu Buqing. Big boss, do you still need the coordinates for the island? We're being hunted relentlessly by obsidian rhinos and lost 3 of our brothers. If you come, all the island's supplies are yours, and we'll throw an extra payment on top. Attached image, obsidian rhino, tier 2 creature. Slaying it yields obsidian and premium beast hides. Shinsi's expression shifted from irritation to delight. He'd found the materials he needed for the Shadow Bat blood armor, and he'd get to test the absolute limits of his book world too. Send over the coordinates. From a distance, it was a tiny isle, only roughly twice the size of the demon's vessel. Inside the wheelhouse, Shinsi watched the radar as one large red that chased 3 or 4 small yellow dots circling the island. When Pu Buqing spotted the massive dark red ship, he knew the powerful survivor had arrived. He hopped and waved wildly as he ran, shouting at the top of his lungs. Help! Somebody help us! Pu Buqing's ridiculous flailing made Shinsi snort with laughter instantly. He'd gone through specialized training not to crack a smile, usually, but this was an exception. Open fire. Shinsi quickly composed himself and issued the attack order to the mid-tier radar system. Boom, boom, boom. The beach exploded into a cloud of dust. Pu Buqing pulled his head free from the sand, only to lock eyes with the lifeless, unblinking obsidian rhino towering over him. Mother of God, get off this island at once. Stunned speechless by the demon's vessel's overwhelming firepower, Pu Buqing stumbled back to his own boat and waited to watch what the big boss would do next. Aboard the demon's vessel, Shinsi held his breath and focused, hurling a single book high into the sky. Book world. Activate maximum stamina output. The book swelled endlessly overhead. The entire island peeled away from the sea like a print emerging from an inkjet printer, etched permanently into the pages of the tome. Pu Buqing stared upward, his jaw dropping so far it nearly dislocated. His underling grabbed his arm to stop him from collapsing onto the sand. Boss is godlike. Boss is invincible. Watching an entire island vanish into a book, Sasha, Shinsi's most loyal subordinate, hopped around frantically, cheering loudly for him. Pu Buqing snapped his jaw back into place and joined the shouting. Boss is the best. Boss. Everything after that was straightforward. Having witnessed the miraculous sight of one book swallowing an entire island whole, Pu Buqing didn't dare harbor a single treacherous thought. He obediently lined all their supplies along the shore, and let Shinsi's group pick through them freely. These men couldn't even defeat a tier 2 obsidian rhino. It stood to reason they had nothing valuable to offer. Sasha took a handful of green-grade grenades, and Jean claimed the only truly worthwhile item, an automatic weaving machine. Automatic weaving machine. Grade, blue fine. Function, insert raw materials, design clothing styles, and the machine will automatically produce finished garments. Pu Buqing's heart ached as he stared longingly at the weaving machine. Sasha, the most devoted subordinate, caught his longing gaze. She pulled the pin from a grenade and tossed it toward Pu Buqing and his crew. In the next instant, Sasha shifted into her shark form and swallowed the grenade whole mid-air above Pu Buqing's head. A puff of smoke billowed from her sharp fangs. Pu Buqing froze on the spot, a damp puddle spreading beneath his legs. Sasha shifted back into human form, grinning ear to ear to flash her white teeth. Something wrong. And nothing at all, boss. Wait, actually, there is a problem. This weaving machine takes up far too much space, and we've had nowhere to store it. Taking it off our hands is a huge favor, boss. Thank you so much, boss. Thank you, thank you. Pu Buqing seethed inwardly. They'd lost 3 brothers just to get this one decent piece of gear on the island, and now it was being taken away from them. It wasn't a weapon, but it was still blue grade. He could have traded it to the soaring Chamber of Commerce for supplies, or bartered it with the Steel Brotherhood to earn a boarding pass onto their warships. But now, thank you, boss. Sister and Jean, look, he's thanking us even after we took his gear. Is that really right, though? It's called friendly mutual aid. We saved his life, so he owes us tribute. Nothing wrong with it. Over the following days, Shinsi's group roamed the open ocean non-stop, hunting for more islands. They gathered as many supplies as possible, for Jean had foreseen a major catastrophic event looming in the near future. Her vision was vague, not a clear image, merely a heavy sense of impending danger. To prepare for the unknown crisis, the three of them threw themselves into wartime preparations. A new Neptune cannon was mounted on the deck, 10 meters long, 3 meters tall, with a staggering 50-centimeter barrel diameter. Neptune cannon. Grade, blue fine. Function, effective firing range of 10,000 meters, capable of lethally wounding Tier 3 aberrant creatures. Compatible with specialty ordnance, including armor-piercing rounds and cluster shells. Shinsei had traded 2 Book World-enabled adult magazines to the Steel Brotherhood at great cost to acquire it. The faction was thoroughly satisfied, and threw in 100 specialty cannon rounds as a bonus. The Steel Brotherhood was made up entirely of rough men. The atmosphere there was far too stifling. 4 complete sets of Shadow Bat blood armor had been forged. The extra set was, of course, meant for Yu Zhao. Survival at sea offered no random loot gacha pulls. Word of Shinsei's demon's vessel spread rapidly among other survivors during this period. All because his trick of vanishing entire islands was far too shocking to ignore. Within the regional chat channel, survivors dubbed the demon's vessel the Devourer. Any island marked by the Devourer would vanish completely from the ocean's surface. The Cross Gang publicly declared war on the Devourer shortly after, claiming they'd endured repeated retaliatory raids by a dark-colored vessel. Connecting the attacks to the newly infamous Devourer, the Cross Gang insisted he was the culprit. Ladies and gentlemen, dinner's ready. Sasha laid out the delicate side dishes for Shinsei and Injin, then hauled a giant vat of stew and 6 trays of rice out from the galley. Shinsei's book fruit ability came into play. Using books as a medium, he traded for countless volumes. Sasha, who'd only recently gained her human form, devoured knowledge from them relentlessly. She barely resembled a pseudo-human anymore. She sprinkled English phrases into her speech, even learned to pin Shinsei against the wall with a wall slam. She'd become far too human-like. Shinsei had to administer a few electric shocks to calm her antics back down. The only truly useful book was a complete Blue Star cookery manual. Drawing on her chef profession, Sasha quickly mastered every recipe and became a fully competent cook. Her profession rank also rose. As a Tier 2 chef, she could prepare low-tier aberrant creatures into dishes that granted temporary stat buffs. Sasha dug into the stew vat while eyeing Shinsei and Injin's smaller plates. As the ship's cook, it was her duty to ensure no food went to waste. Not just because her appetite was enormous and the big boss only let her eat from the communal pot. Shinsei and Injin exchanged an amused glance. Today's stew is a little underdone. Sasha, you can finish it off later. Sasha's eyes lit up at the prospect of extra good food. Shinsei stood to leave, and Sasha prepared to dig into her bonus meal until a divine voice echoed across the seas. Regional announcement. The Primordial Sea will seal in 3 days. Countdown. 3 days remaining. Notice. The first phase of maritime survival concludes. All survivors must cross the reverse current waterfall to enter the new ocean zone. Coordinates for the reverse current waterfall are as follows. Shinsei ignored the flustered Sasha and immediately pulled up the ship core interface. Reverse current waterfall. Pollution level, mid-tier. Description, a waterfall where water surges upward against gravity. Crossing it is the only way to leave the Primordial Sea. The waterfall teems with deadly threats, and vessels must be at minimum Tier 3 to survive passage. A Tier 3 ship? Are you kidding me? The natural disaster only just ended. We've had no time to upgrade our ships to Tier 3. Don't get your hopes up. With someone like the Devourer hoarding every island's resources for himself, even with ample time, no one could hit Tier 3. Upgrading to Tier 3 is trivial. I'm already near the reverse current waterfall. What? How'd you get there so fast? I looted a purple-grade engine during the last disaster. It hits rocket like top speeds, so I pulled ahead of everyone else. Cut the bragging. Dude, you gonna dare charge the waterfall first? Yeah, whoever crosses first is guaranteed special rewards. Near the reverse current waterfall, a sharp-faced elderly man read the chat messages, and his eyes lit up. There had to be god-tier rewards for the first survivor to make it through. He'd upgrade his ship, build a powerful faction, and become an overlord with countless women at his side in this maritime survival world. He couldn't wait a second longer. His long, narrow skiff skimmed across the waves, racing straight for the waterfall. The current grew fiercer by the second, and the old man cranked his ship's throttle to maximum speed. Suddenly, horrifying tentacles burst from the water, covered in grotesque human heads lined with barbed fangs. The old man swerved left and right, dodging their strikes. A second tentacle emerged, then a third, a fourth. 10 massive appendages rose from the depths in total. With nowhere left to run, he tilted the boat's bow upward, sending the craft crashing back down onto the sea from midair. Crash! The old man and his vessel shattered into hero fragments, vanishing beneath the waves. He only had time to send one final message. Monsters guard the waterfall. I'm jumping overboard. Survivor Lee Fuguay has perished. Word of Lee Fuguay's death blew up the regional chat channel. Vessels need to be Tier 3 minimum. Unknown aberrant beasts roam the falls, and jumping overboard's a death sentence. How are we even supposed to play this? This is a death sentence for all lone survivors. This isn't maritime survival, it's a survival purge. Ordinary players were always the ones getting exploited by the big factions, just like retail investors getting fleeced by Wall Street brokers. Seizing on the mass panic, the major factions moved to take advantage. As crisis looms, the soaring Chamber of Commerce invites all lone survivors to join us. Surrender 80% of your supplies, and you may board our floating sea city to cross the reverse current waterfall. Hand over 3 blue-grade construction blueprints to earn a boarding spot on the Steel Brotherhood's Tier 3 warships. Many hands make light work. The Fraternal Alliance welcomes all survivors to unite. We will combine our resources to build our own Tier 3 vessel. Each faction harbored its own selfish motives, yet survivors without Tier 3 ships had no real choice. They could either die trying to cross the waterfall alone, or submit to exploitation by the powerful to cling to life a little longer. And Jean scribbled down every detail about the first man who'd attempted the waterfall crossing. Shinseai stared down, deep in thought. The primordial sea closes in 3 days, huh? What a shame. We've only claimed 12 islands. Everyone shared the same sky, yet their joys and sorrows could not be more different. Most survivors scrambled to pledge loyalty to major factions just to stay alive. Shinseai, meanwhile, fretted over the handful of islands he'd failed to absorb. The lone survivors reading the chat were livid. Only 12 islands, and he's complaining about it? Does he have any sense of decency at all? At full speed, it'll take half a day to reach the reverse current waterfall. Everyone used the remaining time to gather supplies around the clock. No one can guarantee resources will be easy to come by in the new ocean zone. And Jean, stay in the regional chat from now on to hunt down island coordinates. We'll offer at most 10% of our supplies as trade. Sasha, you take the helm starting now. Watch the radar alerts closely and steer clear of unnecessary trouble. The regional announcement triggered universal action across all survivors. The weak sought protection, the strong hunted for plunder. Time slipped by rapidly. Primordial sea sealing countdown. 17 minutes, 17 seconds remaining. Dozens of vessels of all shapes and sizes crowded the waters near the reverse current waterfall. The Steel Brotherhood held the front line. 10 Tier 3 warships glinted with cold metallic sheen, lined up side by side. The soaring Chamber of Commerce sat in the middle of the formation. An entire floating city hovered above the ocean by unknown forces, with chains tethering countless smaller boats to its perimeter. Bringing up the rear were lone survivors who declined to join any major faction. Every soul gathered here clung to the faint hope of surviving the crossing. At the very back of the crowd, aboard a small Tier 2 ship, brothers Zhang Long and Zhao Hu stared out at the endless sea behind them. Zhang Long sighed heavily. Huzi, do you think anyone else will make it? Not a chance. Less than 30 minutes left, nobody's going to show up. Zhao Hu sat cross-legged on the deck, polishing a broadsword and answering half-heartedly. Suddenly Zhang Long grabbed his arm, yanking him to his feet in a panic. Look, a ship's heading straight for us across the waves. A dark silhouette grew larger on the horizon, racing forward at breakneck speed. Nothing interesting there. Anyone rushing here at the last minute's bound to be a mess, no big boss. Zhao Hu's curse struck true once more. As the distance closed, a massive dark red sailing ship cut through the gale winds. The demon's vessel had arrived. That's the Devourer? Several survivors shouted the vessel's infamous nickname, immediately parting to clear a path for Shinseai's group. Shinseai and Jean and Sasha stood side by side on the bow deck clad in pitch-black armor. Shadow Bat Blood Armor. Grade, Blue Fine. Defense, 300. Magic Resistance, 100. Attached skills, Shadow Stealth. Merge into shadow to approach foes completely undetected. Shadow Bat Aura. Unleash a crushing intimidation wave that suppresses all creatures below Tier 3 without discrimination. Evaluation, an elegant set of armor. Zhao Hu met Shinseai's gaze and saw the cold detachment of a ruler, paired with unbridled arrogance. A cold chill washed over his entire body, and he instinctively looked away. He knew he was far beneath Shinseai's station to hold eye contact. Aboard the demon's vessel, Shinseai focused his gaze on the reverse current waterfall. A massive red fog dam stretched across the horizon, with the waterfall as the sole passage through. Thick, eerie red fog billowed on either side of the falls. Enormous shadowy shapes loomed faintly within. Boom, boom, boom. 3 thunderous cannon blasts echoed as the Steel Brotherhood's 10 warships sailed into the waterfall's current. The soaring Chamber of Commerce's floating city chugged forward in thick black smoke, pulled steadily by its tethered escort boats, in orderly formation. Sasha double-checked the radar and found no trace of the Cross Gang, nor Yu Zhao's black ship. Shen Xiai knitted his brows into a deep frown. He'd heard nothing from Yu Zhao since she'd left. He knew his boundaries and would never pry into another's private affairs. Yet he hated the thought of losing such a talented, agreeable crewmate. Ugh, this is troublesome. Casualties began piling up as the entire fleet entered the waterfall's currents. One Tier 2 ship failed to fight against the raging rapids and was swept backward. Its retreat triggered a chain collision. Over a dozen Tier 2 vessels crashed into one another and were dragged into the red fog. Giant shadowy figures flickered within the mist, and the survivors vanished without a single scream. The butterfly effect was in full swing. More and more survivors perished in the red fog. Some lone boats edged toward the major factions, begging for shelter. The powerful factions responded with identical brutality. Boom, boom, boom. They fired their cannons to sink any lone survivors drawing near. With fewer ships crowding the water, the demon's vessel cut through the reverse current at full throttle instead of drifting slowly. To maintain maximum velocity, Shen Xiai summoned powerful hurricane winds, creating violent downward gusts surrounding his ship. Several Tier 2 sailboats rode the wind currents, trailing far behind the demon's vessel. Shen Xiai saw no reason to waste cannon shells on them. He didn't consider himself overflowing with ammunition. Zhang Long and Zhao, who were among those trailing boats, gazing gratefully at the lone figure. When the fleet reached the waterfall's midpoint, a new crisis emerged. Hordes of aberrant creatures surged endlessly out of the red fog on both sides, swarming every survivor vessel. Radar detects massive aberrant hordes. Targets locked. Initiate attack sequence? Confirm. Plagued by a persistent fear of insufficient firepower, Shen Xiai had expanded his fleet of Frank cannons to 20. The 20 artillery pieces unleashed a relentless barrage, expending 500 cannon rounds in a single second. A blood-cleared sterile zone opened across the sea. Constant pop-up notifications displayed loot gained from slain monsters, which Shen Xiai simply muted entirely. Down in the cabin, Jean labored non-stop to forge more cannon rounds. Haunted by her premonition of disaster, crafting each shell brought her a small measure of calm. Abruptly, a smoking submarine surfaced beside the demon's vessel. A white-cloaked figure leaped from its hatch and immediately clashed with a group of cross-gang lunatics. The white figure was none other than Yu Zhao. The cross-gang had clearly laid an ambush. Every member was a seasoned combatant, at minimum Tier 1 battle professions. Abandoning their usual reckless berserker tactics, they took turns attacking one at a time, steadily draining Yu Zhao's stamina. Her energy was rapidly depleted. A black iron staff parried Yu Zhao's fatal sword strike. Its wielder taunted her mockingly. "Keep fighting, why'd you stop? You hurt so many of our brothers. Never thought you'd end up at my mercy, huh?" Yu Zhao said nothing. She breathed evenly, straining to recover her dwindling stamina. In the next instant, she burst forward in a ferocious lunge, slashing her sword toward the black staff. The staff wielder dodged calmly, retreating into the crowd of gang members. Attacks assailed her from every direction, trapping Yu Zhao in a brutal losing battle once again. Faced with inevitable defeat, she never flinched, drawing her blade again and again to counterattack. In the end, a rogue alchemist ambushed her, injecting a weakness serum into her bloodstream. The gang only managed to subdue her after losing 2 of their own fighters. Yu Zhao was tied to a pillar inside a submarine. Black Cudgel, leader of the Cross Gang, stared at his 2 dead underlings and roared with rage. "Damn you, bitch. Isn't the Great Devourer your backer? Go ahead and call him. I'll kill him all the same." Black Cudgel grabbed Yu Zhao's cheek in his hand, reaching to grope her body. Yu Zhao's eyes turned sharp. She sank her teeth hard into his hand and refused to let go no matter what. You beast, let go. It hurts like hell." Black Cudgel slammed a fist straight into Yu Zhao's stomach. She let out a muffled groan, her eyes locked unblinkingly on him like a starving wolf ready to tear its prey apart. He kept raining blows down on her, yet Yu Zhao's jaws never loosened. Eventually, she bit clean through a chunk of flesh from his hand. But this came at a brutal cost. Several maniacs from the Cross Gang swarmed her, kicking and punching her relentlessly. Bruises covered Yue Zhao's body, a thin streak of blood trickling from her mouth. Yet she showed not a single trace of submission. Speak, damn it. Spit it out. Tell me who the Great Devourer really is. Black Cudgel's patience was gone. His mission was to eliminate Yue Zhao and follow the trail to uncover the Great Devourer's identity. During the previous cataclysm, a lieutenant highly favored by their boss had died mysteriously, killed aboard a black ship. The Cross Gang had long put a bounty on that black vessel, and the newly notorious Great Devourer had risen to fame shortly after. These brainless maniacs easily linked the two incidents, convinced the Great Devourer was the black ship. You stubborn whore, still refusing to talk? Do you really think the Great Devourer will come save you? Every ship must pass through the reverse current waterfall. No one will care if you live or die. You've only got two options. Tell us who the Great Devourer is, and I'll grant you a quick, clean death. If not, I'll let my brothers take their turns with you to keep them entertained. As Black Cudgel shouted his threats, everything above him suddenly went dark. He looked up to see a figure hovering midair. Shen Si hovered aloft in partial elemental form, the dark bat blood armor covering his body radiating terrifying oppressive aura. True maniacs through and through. Faced with the overwhelming pressure rolling off Shen Si, Black Cudgel felt no fear. Instead, he burst into wild, cackling laughter. The sound grated like an old rusted door creaking back and forth in a light breeze. Shen Si ignored the madman, turning his gaze to the bound Yue Zhao. If I'm not mistaken, this is our second meeting. Doesn't that mean you owe me a promise? Yue Zhao said nothing. She turned her head aside like a child caught misbehaving, too ashamed to meet his eyes. A faint smile tugged at Shen Si's lips. Terrifying lightning condensed in his palm as he pondered how to torment these cross-gang lunatics. So you can fly up there, big deal? Come down here if you've got the guts. Black Cudgel brandished his iron rod. Shen Si let out a scoff and hurled the lightning spear he'd conjured. Crackle! The spear struck Black Cudgel dead on. Since he gripped a metal rod, none of the surrounding gang members suffered collateral damage from the blast. Half his body charred black from the electric shock. His eyeballs rolled upward in spasms. Didn't your mother ever tell you not to wave an iron rod around during thunderstorms? Shen Si jeered, then launched a second lightning spear, incinerating Black Cudgel completely. Witnessing Shen Si's devastating power, the remaining cross-gang members went rigid with terror. They leaped into the ocean one after another, desperate to flee. Shark fins cutting the surface told them escape was impossible. Sasha shifted into her giant shark form. She tore them apart without mercy. Shen Si landed on the submarine's deck and untied Yue Zhao without a word. A thin layer of mist blurred Yue Zhao's cold eyes. You're really willing to take me in? Shen Si answered with a solemn expression. I am. Even if you have to bear all my sins, you won't regret it. Yue Zhao asked out of the blue. Shen Si blinked in surprise. He'd thought her an unsmiling ice queen, never guessing she had a knack for deadpan dark humor. He put on a serious, unwavering tone to reply. Even if it means standing against the entire world, you'll always be one of my crew. Yue Zhao fell silent, clinging to her cold, aloof demeanor. After a quick tally of their battle spoils, he dismantled the submarine. He took Yue Zhao back to the Devil's vessel. And Jean stood waiting on the deck the moment they arrived, holding a brand new pale blue overcoat. She designed the garment exclusively for Yue Zhao. Ever since acquiring an automated loom, she designed clothes amid the ordeal. Her companions naturally became her fit models. Shen Si preferred casual, relaxed outfits to match his laid-back personality. Sasha rambled endlessly about brotherhood, so Jean crafted loose suits for her, paired with sunglasses and thick gold chains, making her look like a gangster. Yue Zhao took the coat and murmured softly, "Thank you." And Jean smiled warmly and led her below deck to treat her wounds. 5 minutes later, Yue Zhao looked like a different person, fully revitalized. She stood beside Shen Si and recounted her story. After their last encounter, she'd hunted cross-gang members relentlessly to avenge her fallen comrades. The lieutenant who'd manipulated Axe Giant had fallen to her blade. Her vengeance should have ended there, but a zone-wide broadcast forced her to strike again. Not every cross-gang member was a mindless killer. They'd laid a trap specifically for her. The guild leaked intel about a Tier 3 submarine. Desperate to cross the reverse current waterfall, Yue Zhao walked straight into their ambush. The submarine held over a dozen Tier 1 combat specialists, plus Black Cudgel, a Tier 2 profession holder. All of them were seasoned fighters. Their strength could not be measured by tier alone. Luck favored Yue Zhao. The submarine had surfaced right beside the Devil's vessel. After hearing her story, Shen Si's expression remained neutral. He held out a hand for her to shake. Welcome aboard, my crewmate. You won't be alone anymore. Yue Zhao stared at his outstretched palm, took a deep breath, then clasped his hand tightly. Captain, the fleet pressed onward. Though many survivors had perished along the way, most had reached the latter stretch of the reverse current waterfall. And Jean suddenly clutched her head with both hands. Her prophecy skill activated automatically. A vision of a 100-meter-tall giant octopus monster flooded her mind. She recognized the creature from somewhere. And Jean froze for a split second, then rushed below deck to retrieve the ship's log she'd looted alongside the Devil's vessel blueprints. It has to be at the end. She flipped to the final page, revealing an unfinished sketch, a massive twisted octopus dragging an entire ship down into the depths. It matched the monster in her prophecy exactly. Kraken, servant of the evil god. A twisted sea beast that preys exclusively on ships. Born at Tier 3, it grows 2 fully functional tentacles each time it ranks up. Tier 3. And Jean panicked, racking her brain to count its tentacles. 10 total, 2 of them noticeably shorter. That meant the monster possessed peak Tier 3 power. Alarmed, and Jean sprinted back to the deck and told Shenxiai everything. Shenxiai stayed calm, patting her shoulder to reassure her. As captain, he was the group's anchor. He could not falter. If he lost his nerve, everyone would lose hope. Order was restored, and Jean returned to logistics work. Sasha stood at the bow, her shark-like snout sniffing the water for abnormal scents. Shenxiai and Yue Zhao sat cross-legged, centering themselves for the coming battle. Yue Zhao had donned her dark bat blood armor, her bloodthirst blade resting across her thighs, looking every bit as proud and regal as a high elf from Western fantasy tales. At the front of the fleet, 10 warships belonging to the Steel Brotherhood advanced like roaring metal behemoths. Artillery fire boomed non-stop, forcing swarms of twisted creatures into retreat. Suddenly, a writhing mountain of flesh rose from the sea. Before the Steel Brotherhood could react, massive tentacles covered in grotesque human faces shot vertically upward from the ocean depths. The faces split open to reveal rows of jagged fangs, letting loose chilling wails and maddening whispers. On board one warship, a survivor who'd spent every last resource to secure passage hauled artillery shells to reload the cannons. At the sound of the whispers, he went instantly insane. Clutching his head, blood oozed from his 7 facial orifices. A shell slipped from his grasp, its primer striking the deck and igniting. A deafening explosion tore across the vessel. Before they could contain the blast, colossal tentacles curled and slammed down with crushing force. The fully metal warship crumpled like soft tofu beneath the blow. Kraken, Tier 3 peak race. Twisted creature servant of evil god skills. Evil god bloodline. As a spawn of an evil god, the Kraken bears an extremely rare corrupted bloodline granting innate supreme defense, rapid regeneration, and reality-contaminating aura. Wraith summon. Every being slain by the Kraken is resurrected as a wraith to fight on its behalf. Evaluation. The emissary of dark gods, the terror of the open sea. No sailor wishes to cross paths with it. All warships, hear my order. Activate maximum strength barrier shields at all costs. Zhao Gang, leader of the Steel Brotherhood, shouted into the comms from his flagship. Pale blue energy barriers bloomed across the fleet, but one ship failed to deploy its shield in time and was crushed by a tentacle a single second too late. Zhao Gang's muscles tensed with unbridled rage. He glanced back at the floating megacity belonging to the Prosperity Chamber of Commerce. Wang Tung leaned against the balcony of the megacity's tallest tower, glanced at his watch, and wore a mocking grin. Fat Wang, you're just going to stand there and do nothing. Fine. Even if I die here, you crooked merchant won't survive this either. At Zhao Gang's command, the lined-up warships repositioned, clearing an unobstructed path straight to the Kraken. Wang Tung slammed his fist against the railing and cursed. Damn that lunatic. Sound full battle stations. Activate the scales of equivalence. Target the Kraken. Rip one of its tentacles clean off. At Wang Tung's order, hundreds of survivors hauled mountains of supplies onto the golden balance platform at the megacity's core. The image of a balance scale glinted in Wang Teng's eyes as he pointed remotely at one of the Kraken's tentacles. Contract sealed, price exchanged evenly, equivalent exchange activate. A burst of golden light flashed, and the tentacle swinging toward the barrier vanished without a trace. Wang Tung smirked triumphantly. See that, Zhao Gang? The Steel Brotherhood doesn't hold the only ace up its sleeve. Zhao Gang paid no mind to his boasting, secretly elated. If it can be wounded, the monster isn't invincible. Up until that point, their cannon strikes had bounced uselessly off its hide like eggs smashing against stone. dealing zero meaningful damage. Zhao Gang's hope had nearly faded completely until the Prosperity Chamber's attack landed. It proved their strikes weren't ineffective, merely insufficiently powerful. A savage grin spread across his face. Charged the railguns to full power. Blasted to pieces. Before Zhao Gang finished speaking, he watched in horror as the severed tentacle regrew in an instant. The regenerated limb slammed against the energy barrier, sending ripples across the ocean. Dozens of vessel wakes cut through the waves as a bizarre scrap metal ship surged into view, welded together from broken hulls of all shapes and sizes. It bore no sails, no underwater propellers, only a twisted statue rising from its center. The statue's base was piled high with the corpses of tortured survivors, glowing with an eerie radiance that propelled the ship forward without wind. At the stern, a pale man in a green suit and glasses waved backward, a voluptuous naked woman clinging to his chest. The strange ship glided past the Kraken, yet the beast made no move to attack them. Zhao slammed his fist against the control panel as the barrier's energy plummeted rapidly. Those cross-gang maniacs. He did not need to guess the truth. The cross-gang worshipped some evil deity. Each slaughter they committed earned them unholy blessings from their patron god. To pass unharmed by the Kraken, how many survivors had they sadistically murdered? Zhao Gang was no saint, but he detested such underhanded, cruel tactics. Men like Zhao Gang and Wang Tung would kill rivals to grow stronger, but they never tortured victims for sport. As fellow survivors, they clung to a basic moral line. None wished to end up brutalized like those sacrifices. The Cross Gang was merely a distraction. The real battle remained every survivor united against the Kraken. Whoosh boom. A shrill whistle split the air. An armor-piercing round from the Poseidon cannon slammed into the Kraken's mountainous head, blowing a massive crater into its flesh. The Devil's vessel joined the fight. Sailing around the Prosperity Chamber's floating megacity, it positioned itself behind the Steel Brotherhood's warships. Engine and Sasha loaded shells into the Poseidon cannon, while Shin Xiai and Yuezhao activated Darkbat Blood Armor's Shadow Stealth, leaping directly onto the Steel Brotherhood flagship's deck. Their armor's magic resistance proved invaluable. Shin Xiai suffered zero adverse effects from the monster's mental corruption. He unleashed a charged lightning spear, charring one of the Kraken's tentacles black. Back on Bloodbat Island, Shin Xiai had discovered the lightning held special effectiveness. Whether restraining wraiths with lightning nets or one-shotting Tier 2 abominations with lightning spears, lightning was their best shot at turning the tide. Shin Xiai and Yuezhao acted as roving reinforcements, leaping between warships to intercept fatal blows. The Steel Brotherhood's vessels formed the front line, absorbing the Kraken's assaults. Poseidon cannon rounds targeted the monster's vital weak points. Wang Tang's equivalent exchange landed crippling blows at intermittent intervals. Shin Xiai and Yuezhao darted across the battlefield as decisive trump cards. Even combining the full strength of Zone DZ 1888's most powerful survivors, they only barely held the Kraken at bay. Its absurd natural defense paired with instant regeneration meant it could not be slain without overwhelming, instantaneous burst damage. Enraged by the prolonged stalemate, the Kraken roared. It made a hideous mix of bull bellow and bird shriek. Countless human faces embedded in its tentacles wriggled free. Wraith Summon activated. The disembodied faces broke away from the limbs, screaming with feral delight. Sickly green energy materialized their lost weapons and armor. The wraiths ran unimpeded across the ocean surface, charging straight for the warships. The energy barriers malfunctioned, powerless to block the spectral horde. Wraiths swarmed the decks, cutting down survivors left and right, sending the battle spiraling into catastrophe. The wraith tide crashed forward like a tsunami. Yuezhao's strength fell slightly short. After absorbing multiple heavy hits from the Kraken, Shin Xiai forced her back to the Devil's vessel to recover. He could not hold the line alone. The Steel Brotherhood dispatched a handful of elite fighters to assist, yet they were far too few. Beneath the Kraken's pervasive contamination aura, only profession holders and a tiny minority of survivors retained clear minds to fight. Barely enough to man the ships, let alone fend off wraiths. At this critical moment, the lone wanderers who'd quietly followed Shin Xiai surged forward. If they could not withstand the mental corruption, they stuffed their ears shut. If their strength was insufficient, they sacrificed their lives. Roaring battle cries, they brandished their weapons and charged the wraith army head-on. Zhang Long and Zhao Hu fought to Shin Xi's side. Shin Xiai looked battered. Less than a third of his stamina remained. A thin streak of blood stained his lip, and his Darkbat blood armor bore several cracked gashes. Watching his state, Zhang Long, and Zhao, whose eyes blazed with fervent admiration. This was what a true warrior looked like, standing alone against an army of wraiths. Shen Xi had no time to acknowledge their loyal gazes. He seized every spare second to devour grilled meat Sasha had prepared for him, crafted from edible twisted beast flesh. As his vitality surged back, he straightened his back and turned to the two men. "Who are you, boss?" "We're the drifters who followed you this whole time. We've come to repay your protection by fighting beside you." "Understood." Shen Xi gave only one short reply. With the battle hanging in the balance, he would not waste words. A crash of thunder rolled out, obliterating another wave of wraiths. Shen Xi darted across the battlefield, slaying powerful spectral warriors, some even tier 3 in strength, requiring lengthy concentrated effort to defeat. Constant combat honed his devil fruit mastery. No longer relying on single isolated attacks, he began weaving combined abilities. Lightning nets ensnared wraiths 1 second. The next, he clenched his fist, condensing the entire net into a piercing lightning spear that skewered spectral bodies in one blow. My SAN values dropping to 30. I'm doomed anyway, so I'll drag you all down with me. One drifter activated a self-destruct survival trinket, blowing himself up alongside the wraiths surrounding him. "This is my final gift, boss, take it." A teenage boy tossed gear. Received survivor's parting gift. Enhancement scroll ×2, upgrade scroll ×3, last will ×1. This marked the start of a grim pattern. The drifters lacked raw power. Their numerical advantage that had temporarily stabilized the fight collapsed once more as survivors fell one after another, leaving Shen Xi piled high with their final offerings. Their unyielding sacrifice stirred raw emotion in Shen Xi's chest. His eyes blazed red as he let out a thunderous roar. "You monster, you will die." Consume 500 enhancement scrolls to max out fruit mastery? Yes. Enhancement complete. Dual fruit proficiency raised to advanced tier. New abilities unlocked. 10 million volts Thor's hammer, Death Storm. Dark storm clouds swallowed the sky, thick arcs of lightning snaking within them. Tornadoes churned across the sea, catching thousands of wraiths and tearing them. Shen Xi hovered midair, engulfed in raging elemental energy. He slammed a palm downward, and the sky ignited with pale, cerulean lightning. 10 million volts, Thor's hammer. 100-meter-wide pillar of lightning crashed into the Kraken. The beast slipped into critical near-death condition. All wraiths dissolved into mist. 2 swirling death storms closed in, grinding the Kraken apart piece by piece like scrap metal in a hydraulic crusher. Kraken eliminated. Loot. Treasure chest ×2. Chests guaranteed to yield purple tier or higher quality loot. The eerie rumbling faded. Beneath the mixed gazes of gratitude and terror from every survivor, Shen Xi returned to the Devil's Vessel. Silence settled over the fleet before they resumed their voyage as before. The Steel Brotherhood remained at the front, serving as the vanguard. The Devil's Vessel drifted to the rear, though all other ships kept a wider berth now. The wanderers who charged into battle lingered far behind the Devil's Vessel, riding the edge of Shen Xi's wind aura to conserve energy. Half a day's sailing later, they passed the falls. They entered a brand new sea zone. Crimson fog spread from both sides, swallowing the waterfall entirely. Zone broadcast. Welcome to the new world. Ranking board unlocked. Marketplace unlocked. Zone merging in progress. For novice, zone successfully combined. Zone ID, WJ444. Online survivors, 100,000. Shen Xi noted that fewer than 20,000 survivors had remained online by the waterfall's end. Combined across 4 zones, their total population barely topped 80,000. That meant this sea held not just novice survivors like them, but veteran players who'd survived far longer. He glanced at the ranking board. His name sat at 999th place, barely squeezing into the top 1,000. None of his companions appeared anywhere on the list. Was he vastly overpowered, or were the rest simply far weaker? Oh ho ho, fresh meats arrived. Let's cheer for the newcomers who survived the starting sea. Cheer? Are you joking, 8-arm? Just spare a few of them for once. The Mutual Aid Alliance recruits new members. Sign up and receive a class change scroll free. Before any newcomers could reply, the zone chat flooded with messages from veteran players. Shen Xi skimmed them half-heartedly until a mention tag popped up targeting him directly. Who's Shen Xi? Got a death wish, daring to steal Wind Grandpa's ranking spot. The ranking board displayed real names visible to all users, though most opted for screen aliases or anonymous status, so conflicts rarely flared from it.